Chapter 594. In the end, Tianyang had no choice but to let Yu Jianshun, this sticky candy, follow him. Of course, this guy didn't have the privilege of entering the Heaven Origin Tower. In any case, this guy knew the Imperial Sword technique, and his level wasn't low. He could keep up with the Heaven Origin Tower speed. It was just that the northwest wind didn't feel good. Big brother, big brother, big brother, when are you going to practice your Imperial Sword technique? I don't ask for too much. If you practice it 100 times a day, I'll be satisfied. Yu Jianshun called out. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched. He felt that letting this guy follow him was a mistake. If you really want, I can use the Imperial Sword technique to kill you. It's said that in the underworld, you can easily remember the moment before your death. Tianyang said sinisterly. Hearing this, Yu Jianshun immediately shuddered and shut his mouth. He was only 40 years old and was still considered young. For a Spirit King expert, he was extremely young. In terms of talent, he was also a genius of the Central region. However, there were too many geniuses. Before Yu Jianshun broke through to Spirit King, he was only in the top 50 of the Spirit ranking. Big brother, I really don't think it's possible for you to only be 89th on the Spirit ranking. I think that you can easily kill the Tyrannosaurus King. How about I contact someone to help you find the Tyrannosaurus King? Yu Jianshun said. With Tianyang's strength, even if he couldn't beat him, he would definitely be able to escape. And with Tianyang's Imperial Sword technique being so powerful, he would definitely use it in the battle with the Tyrannosaurus King. At that time, wouldn't he be able to observe it as he wished? You think I'm the same as you? Tianyang rolled his eyes and simply ignored this old scoundrel. However, the more Yu Jianshun talked, the more excited he became. Big brother, where you going? This wasteland is so desolate that even birds don't shit. You won't be able to see many magical beasts even if you go around. It's easy to drop your ranking like this. Big brother, say something. Controlling this tower doesn't require much concentration. You won't be able to cultivate and die from boredom. Say something, say something. A life that doesn't talk is an imperfect life. A person that doesn't talk is a cripple. So, big brother, shut up. Tianyang finally couldn't take it anymore. This guy, other than being an old scoundrel, he was actually so talkative. If you're so bored that you can't even drink the northwest wind, then use your sword controlling technique to help me find this terrain. Tianyang roared. In the next moment, a streak of light flew out of the tower and landed in Yu Jianshun's hand. With proper business to attend to, Yu Jianshun became much more serious. Looking at the mountains and rivers, as well as the symbol of a dragon's head at the very edge, his expression froze slightly. When I was chasing after the hawk-winged dragon lion, I seemed to have passed by this area. With that, Tianyang's eyes lit up. Really, if I remember correctly, it's true. Moreover, I also felt a trace of a strange aura nearby. That eagle-winged draconic lion seemed to have also felt it and was so scared that it instantly took a detour. I was a little concerned, so I wrote it down. Yu Jianshun said. Hearing that, Tianyang's expression froze. The hawk-winged draconic lion wasn't a hybrid draconic lion in the hidden dragon ancient land. It was a genuine Asian dragon. The true dragon bloodline in its body wasn't high, but it wasn't low either. Normal dragon aura wouldn't be able to affect the hawk-winged draconic lion. It would even be suppressed. Even Tianyang's true dragon's dragon might not be able to scare him into taking a detour. In other words, that place was where the dragon head was marked on the map. It wasn't a lie. If I'm not wrong, it's probably that place. Yu Jianshun, do you still remember the way? Tianyang said. Hearing that, Yu Jianshun chuckled. Of course I remember. Then I'll lead the way. Yu Jianshun lightly shouted. The flying sword under his but instantly turned into a streak of light and rushed to the front of the Heaven Origin Tower. Tianyang also drove the Heaven Origin Tower and followed. In the western part of the earthly Emperor Small World, in a vast wasteland, this place was deserted and uninhabited. There weren't even many ancient species here. The forces or rogue cultivators who were teleported here were definitely the ones with the worst luck. In a mountain range in this vast wasteland, there was suddenly an additional team. Finally found it. This is the place. It's not bad. According to the red ink on the map, this is the place marked. It's a pity that the entire map is missing the most crucial part. Otherwise, we would have found it long ago. A tall young man in a black robe said. Hearing that, the black-robed young man beside him revealed a slight smile. A greedy light flashed in his golden vertical pupils that were different from ordinary people's. The earthly emperor's small world is in the hands of the Scarlet Flame sect. It's a pity that even the Scarlet Flame sect doesn't know the secret of the earthly emperor's small world. To be able to be called a small world, it has a complete set of laws. To be able to have a complete set of laws, it's either a subsidiary of a large world or it was established by an almighty. No matter which one it is, it's priceless. It's a pity that the Scarlet Flame sect recklessly squandered it. Even the ancient dragon tomb of our dragon clan will be covered in dust for countless years because of them, the black-robed young man said. Hearing that, the others revealed a trace of greed and complacency, because at this moment, their black dragon clan was about to open the ancient dragon tomb. However, Brother Blackblood, it's not only our black dragon clan that came to the earthly emperor's small world this time. There are others. The Scarlet Dragon clan, the Golden Dragon clan, and the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace that came from the sea aren't weak. What if they find their way here? At this moment, the black-robed young man said. Hearing that, the black-robed young man called Black Blood sneered. How is that possible? According to the ancient books in our clan, the incomplete map was lost in the human territory. It's thousands of miles away from the Dragon Clan's territory. Even if they're lucky enough to find it, the possibility of them determining the location as quickly as us is less than 1 in 10,000. Moreover, the Scarlet Dragon Clan is weak. The Golden Dragon Clan has a grudge with us, but it's about the same. The only threat is the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace. The possibility of them finding the map is even lower than 1 in 10,000. Blackblood said. Hearing that, the other black dragons nodded. What he said made sense. Let's not talk about it anymore. We can already confirm that the ancient dragon tomb is in this mountain range. As long as we enter it, our Black Dragon clan will be able to rise. At that time, it might not be impossible for us to replace the Golden Dragon clan and become the true leader of the Dragon clan. Blackblood laughed. At this moment, a long sword and a huge pagoda suddenly flew over their heads. Brother Blackblood, there's someone. Don't be afraid. They might be passing by. It's impossible for them to know the secret of the ancient dragon tomb. But they're heading in the direction of the ancient dragon tomb. Chapter 595. In the air, Tianyong sat cross-legged in the Heaven Origin Tower. As he sensed the aura around him, his expression gradually turned grave. He originally thought that this dragon head mark was an ordinary item of the dragon race, or perhaps something similar to the true dragon's remains in the nest of 1,000 devils. However, this aura overturned his assumptions. With such a dense dragon death chi, it was no wonder that demonic beasts like the hawk-winged Dracolian would be scared to the point of taking a detour. After all, there is only one possibility for a place with such dragon death chi, and that was the Dragon Tomb. The Dragon Tomb is the tomb of the dragon race. It's also the place where countless dying dragons left their inheritances. However, this dragon death chi can't be sensed by ordinary people. Only the dragon race would be able to sense it. Tianyong muttered to himself. His expression was grave. If this was the Dragon Tomb, then it wouldn't be ordinary. The Dragon Tomb was the tomb of the dragon race. It could be said that apart from the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Tomb was the highest place in the hearts of the dragon race. Although he possessed the true dragon's core and could barely be counted as half a dragon race, it was still impossible for him to enter the Dragon Tomb. However, if no one discovered this place and suspected to be a forgotten dragon tomb, then it would be different. There are many treasures in the Dragon Tomb. It's the amalgamation of countless dragon tombs. Who knows how many treasures there will be in the Dragon Tomb? Tianyong chuckled, but at this moment, a black beam of light suddenly shot out from behind. The first one to react wasn't Tianyong, but Yu Jianshun, who was leading the way. Sensing this attack, Yu Jianshun's expression immediately sank. He controlled his flying sword and directly attacked. Boom! 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 The black light and the flying sword collided, erupting with waves of energy ripples. Even the space faintly trembled. Afterwards, Yu Jinshin roared. Sword controlling art, flying sword Dao. In the next moment, the flying sword erupted with a resplendent light. Fifth layer sea of Soul Realm, Zhen Yuan erupted. A stream of light shot out, completely shattering the black light. At this moment, Tianyang's figure flashed, and he arrived outside the Heaven Origin Tower. Yu Jinshin, what's going on? Tianyang said. Hearing that, Yu Jinshin shook his head. I don't know. That black light suddenly attacked. I was so focused on fighting it that I didn't notice where it came from. Tianyang raised his eyebrows when he heard that. Yu Jinshin cultivated the sword controlling art, so his spiritual strength was extremely powerful. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to sense some clues if he wasn't paying attention. However, Yu Jinshin truly didn't know that. In other words, his opponent's spiritual strength wasn't weak either. Since Yu Jinshin had no other choice, Tianyang could only take action himself. A resplendent ray of light shot out his eyes as Tianyang's soul power instantly expanded to cover an area of 50 miles, encompassing almost half of the mountain range. There's Dragon Chi, and it seems to be from the Black Dragon clan. Interesting. It seems like we're not the only ones who have found this dragon tomb. Tianyang chuckled. His gaze locked onto a cave in the south. In the next moment, the stick sword appeared. Tianyang wielded the stick sword and used a secret technique to step on air. His figure instantly disappeared from where he stood. Using the extreme speed of a spirit king, he instantly arrived in front of the cave. Are you going to come out yourself? Or do you want me to kill my way in? Tianyang stood at the entrance of the cave and said indifferently. The stick sword in his hand exploded with cold, killing intent. He still remembered the promise he made to Long Haoyan. Although Long Haoyan wasn't necessarily as powerful as him when he was alive, Tianyang wouldn't forget it. The Black Dragon He Ming, who killed Long Haoyan, was a member of the Black Dragon clan. Now that he had encountered a member of the Black Dragon clan, Tianyang naturally wouldn't give him any face. In the depths of the cave, He Shui's expression was unsightly. He looked at the entrance of the cave, but he didn't dare to act rashly. He still couldn't see through this person's strength, but from the extreme speed just now, he could see that it was very difficult to deal with such strength. As for the middle-aged man who destroyed his black light with a single strike, he was even more extraordinary. Such combat strength was comparable to an existence in the top 20 of the spirit ranking. Damn it, I thought it was just an ordinary team of humans. I never expected there to be two powerful geniuses. He Shui said angrily. He had only made a move to test the strength of Tianyang's group, but he didn't expect Yu Jinshin to react so quickly and destroy his blacklight. And Tianyang was even more terrifying. In just a short dozen seconds, he had found his location and charged over. He couldn't even escape. Brother He Shui, could it be that we have to go out and wait to be captured? Beside He Shui, a black-clothed youth said angrily, "This bunch of lowly humans. If not for the fact that the Black Dragon Patriarch of the ancient times was afraid of those mysterious powerhouses of the human race, he would have slaughtered all the humans in the central region. But now we are blocked in the cave by two humans," said the black-clothed youth. Hearing that, He Shui's face turned even gloomier as he slapped him. "Shut up. Do you want them to charge indirectly?" He Shui said angrily. Hearing that, the black-clothed youth was stunned. At this moment, He Shui said again, "Wait a moment. I'll use a secret technique to charge out and attract their attention. Hurry up and head to the Dragon Necropolis and obtain the opportunities inside. When the time comes, won't these lowly humans still die?" Hearing that, the group of black dragons nodded. At this moment, Tianyang's faint laughter sounded again. "I'll count to 3. If they don't come out, we'll go in." 3. Tianyang chuckled as the Styx river sword in his hand shot out. It shuttled through the darkness, completely ignoring the complex terrain of the cave as it charged towards the black dragons. What? Seeing that, He Shui's expression changed drastically. The dragon blood in his body immediately burned. Remember what I said? In the next moment, He Shui used a secret technique and charged towards the Styx River Sword. Boom! Boom! The Styx River Sword and He Shui fought in the cave. Yu Jianshan wanted to help, but he was stopped by Tianyang. Don't worry, you just have to look after them. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing that, Yu Jianshan was stunned. Them? Boom! Before Tianyang could answer, the cave exploded. Several figures hidden in the shattered rocks flew out and quickly flew in a certain direction. It's them, Tianyang said. Hearing that, Yu Jianshan nodded. He hit his figure and charged out. At this moment, He Shui also charged out of the cave. His eyes were blood red as he stared at Tianyang. Lowly human ant, die for me, He Shui roared. Tianyang, on the other hand, smiled faintly. Using the Void Step secret technique, he instantly disappeared from where he stood. Where do you think you're going? He Shui roared and charged out. 3 minutes later, a stream of light flashed, and Tianyang's figure appeared on the spot once again. Legend says that burning dragon blood can turn a dragon into a retard. It's true. To be able to sense Yu Jianshan's aura, not bad. Finally, there's someone who knows the specific location leading the way. Chapter 596. Tianyang was still worrying about how to find the dragon necropolis. The most detailed part of the map was this mountain range, and this mountain range stretched for thousands of miles. If you were to search for it, who knew how long it would take? Since a black dragon had come to his doorstep, Tianyang naturally wouldn't let it go. Hence, he came up with this good show. As it turned out, it was a success. Amazing. Really amazing. Big Brother is indeed Big Brother. He's strong and ruthless. Yu Jianshan praised after hearing Tianyang's explanation. However, this praise made Tianyang speechless. All right, you didn't lose them, right? Tianyang asked. Yu Jianshan nodded. No, they didn't discover me either. They're heading straight for a destination. I reckon that's the dragon necropolis. But is there really a dragon necropolis here? Yu Jianshan doubted. The dragon necropolis was an illusory existence to the human race like a myth. This earthly emperor's small world had existed for countless years and had always been under the control of the Scarlet Flame sect. Could it be that the people of the Scarlet Flame sect were all blind and couldn't see the dragon necropolis? It's extremely difficult to sense the dragon necropolis. Only those with the blood of the dragon clan can sense it. Moreover, if I'm not wrong, there was a barrier here before. It's just that the barrier was broken recently and the dragon necropolis leaked out. That's why it was discovered by the eagle-winged Dracolian. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to find it even with the map. Tianyang said. Yu Jianshan nodded, but he was still doubtful. He could tell that those dragons were black dragons, but was there really a dragon necropolis here? Tianyang could tell that Yu Jianshan was doubtful, but he didn't explain. No matter how much he said, it wasn't as convincing as seeing it with his own eyes. As the black dragons slowed down, Tianyang could sense that the dragon necropolis was getting denser and denser. It made him, a half-baked dragon clan member, feel slightly uncomfortable. The few black dragons in front almost fell down. No, in order to help us, Big Brother Black Blood used a secret technique to attract the enemy's attention. It's very likely that he's already dead. We have to find the treasure in the dragon necropolis and avenge Big Brother Black Blood. Then, we'll return to our clan and make them rise. When that time comes, the Scarlet Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon Palace, they'll all be trampled under our feet. Even the human clan, they won't be to escape. The dragon necropolis to say, to the dragon, to the dragon necropolis, a dragon, the dragon, to the dragon, to die, to be, to die. That was a dragon, black dragon, to rise, annihilate the human race. These bugs are really daring. Yu Jianshan smiled faintly. Tianyang's expression remained unchanged. He closed his eyes and released his soul power. Dragon's death chi that covered the sky and earth instantly filled the soul power that he had released. It really is here, Tianyang muttered to himself. At this time, as the black dragons accelerated, A towering and imposing palace towering in the mountains appeared before their eyes. Dragon Necropolis. That's the Dragon Necropolis. The Dragon Necropolis left behind from ancient times. The arrogant black dragon from before jumped out. He looked at the majestic Dragon Necropolis that was built in the same way as ancient times. He was shocked. The Dragon Necropolis. The Dragon Necropolis. Now, it was placed in front of them. Yu Jianchen was also shocked. There really was a Dragon Necropolis in the earthly Emperor Small World. However, Tianyang had said before that it was impossible to sense the Dragon Necropolis unless one was from the Dragon Clan. Tianyang had been so confident before. Charge! The arrogant black dragon roared. He circulated the remaining true yuan in his body and charged towards the Dragon Necropolis. At this moment, the black dragon's expression changed. Heike, this Dragon Necropolis can't bang. The arrogant black dragon named Heike crashed into the invisible barrier. He flew back at a speed several times faster than when he came. Blood spurted from his mouth, and his face was pale. This Dragon Necropolis actually had a barrier. A bunch of ghosts. They actually set up this thing to torment people. Damn it. Heike flew in the air for a few minutes before finally stopping. His face was pale as he looked at the invisible barrier with hatred and roared. At this moment, Tianyang chuckled. This barrier is probably the Dragon Clan's unique bloodline seal. It can only be opened with dragon blood of sufficient purity. Looking at the appearance of this group of black dragons, I think it's difficult. As expected, after recognizing that the barrier was the famous bloodline seal, the group of people, including the black flag who had been sent flying previously, began to test it out. Opening the bloodline seal didn't require any complicated ceremony. It only required a drop of the dragon's blood on the barrier. However, if the purity wasn't enough, it could only be rejected. Now, this group of black dragons had been attacked by the Dragon Necropolis for so long. If they didn't go in, they would probably die. How? How can it be? Heike looked at the bloodline seal in front of him in disbelief. He roared, "How can it be? My bloodline is the densest among all of us. Even I can't open this seal. Do we need a purebred black dragon or a true dragon to come in?" Heike roared. However, even after hearing this roar, the barrier still didn't move. We can only wait for Big Brother Black Blood to come back. Otherwise, a black-clothed youth beside him said. Heike was unwilling to do so, but he still walked to the side and rested on the spot. The denser the bloodline of a dragon, the greater the effect of the Dragon Necropolis. However, this bloodline seal could only be opened by a purebred dragon. These two small arrangements limited the strength and bloodline of those who came in. Heike's strength was sufficient, but his bloodline wasn't. The other's strength and bloodline weren't enough, so they naturally couldn't open the bloodline seal. But if they can't open it, we can't open it either. Yu Jianchen frowned. At this moment, Tianyang chuckled. He waved his hand, and a few rays of light flew out, knocking the group of black dragons unconscious. Then, they arrived at the entrance of the crude hall. Further in was the dragon tomb, the Dragon Necropolis. However, there was a layer of barrier that separated the inside from the outside. They can't, but that doesn't mean I can't. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Yu Jianchen was shocked. These black dragons couldn't open the barrier, but Tianyang wanted to open it. Either Tianyang was crazy, or Tianyang really did have the bloodline of a dragon. However, in Yu Jianchen's senses, Tianyang was a pure human. Just as Yu Jianchen was feeling conflicted, Tianyang took a step forward and bit his finger. A drop of blood flew out and landed on the bloodline seal. Rumble. Unlike before, there was no reaction. This time, the bloodline seal opened. Chapter 597. The Dragon Necropolis had opened. Yu Jianchen was shocked. At this moment, Tianyang's eyes narrowed as he looked back into the distance. In the sky, a black that was rapidly expanding and a thunderous roar could be heard. Damned humans! How dare you trick me? Get out of the Dragon Necropolis. He Shui had returned. He Shui's strength was extraordinary, not much weaker than Yu Jianchen. It would not be easy for Tianyang to kill him, so he had lured him thousands of miles away. Unexpectedly, He Shui had returned in such a short time. Moreover, although he had left the state of dragon blood boil, his eyes were still blood red. It was not berserk, but more berserk. High-grade Earth-class martial skill, Black Dragon rips the sky. He Shui roared, and the true yuan in his body flowed rapidly. Accompanied by the Black Dragon's power, he punched out. A terrifying aura burst out, and a Black Dragon's shadow condensed instantly. With a majestic dragon's might, it charged towards Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression did not change, and the corner of his mouth curled into a smile. Not bad, but it's a pity that you're too weak. Tianyang chuckled. In the next moment, the true dragon's core in his heart circulated rapidly, and the 108 true dragon tattoos shone in succession. It was as if an endless amount of true dragon's power had burst out. Long Hao Ian's spiritual siege dragon power had long been completely refined by Tianyang. Now, Tianyang not only had a physical body, but also a true dragon's level. In terms of dragon power, he was not inferior to a true dragon of the same level. Now, dealing with He Shui was naturally easy. Dragon King's divine fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Tianyang roared, and the true dragon's power condensed into countless dragons. They roared out and collided with the Black Dragon shadow. Boom! Just one Dragon Force dragon alone had 1/3 of the Black Dragon Phantom's power, not to mention that there were hundreds and thousands of them attacking at the same time. The Black Dragon rips the sky was destroyed in a breath's time, and the remaining dragons roared and attacked He Shui. This is the East Sea Dragon Palace's Dragon King Divine Fist, and it's the true Dragon King's Divine Fist, which has been cultivated to the level of 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. You, how could a human like you have the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's heaven-tier martial skill? He Shui said in disbelief. Hearing that, Yu Jinshan's expression froze. He looked at Tianyang in disbelief. Not only did he possess the dragon race's bloodline, but he even knew the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace's heaven-ranked martial technique. It could be said that heaven-ranked martial skills were almost extinct. Those who could take out martial skills of this level were all martial Dao Holy Lands or forces close to martial Dao Holy Lands. Even the Imperial Sword Sect and the Sun Moon Sect didn't have any heaven-rank martial skills. In the end, Tianyang's punch was actually a heaven-rank martial technique? Or the East Sea Dragon Palace? What does the fact that I'm a human have to do with the martial skills of the East Sea Dragon Palace? Tianyang chuckled. At this time, Tianyang once again condensed Dragon Force, and countless Dragon Force dragons once again attacked. Oomph. How could the Dragon King's divine fist displayed by the human clan have such power? The real Dragon King's divine fist is not something that the human clan can display. Peerless Earth-tier martial skill, Black Dragon swallows the sky. He Shui snorted coldly. Black Dragon Force gathered in his hand, and in the next moment, he punched out again. This punch was much stronger than the previous Black Dragon rips the sky. The fist print swept across the space, and even caused the space to fluctuate slightly. As for the majestic Black Dragon Force, it was extremely well restrained in the fist print. Only when the Dragon Force erupted would it burst out. Boom! A deafening sound burst out, and in the next moment, large pieces of space shattered, revealing deep cracks. The world was almost filled with rolling energy ripples. The only trees in the mountain range were destroyed by the aftermath. Only the Dragon Necropolis was safe and sound. As expected of the Black Dragon clan's profound martial skill. This punch is not bad. Tianyang smiled faintly. At this moment, his robes were fluttering in the wind, but his body did not move. The Dragon Force in his fist was still surging, and there was no sign of injury. However, He Shui was different. In that collision just now, the Black Dragon devouring the heavens had been thoroughly crushed. Restrained? Burst out? In front of Tianyang, it was just a joke. A light strike from the Dragon King's divine fist had already shattered his fist. Then, with the impact of countless dragons, If it weren't for the fact that Black Blood was the captain of the Black Dragon Squad and had a protective treasure, he would have already died. But now, He Shui spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was full of shock, and he looked at Tian Yang in disbelief. This scene was too shocking for him. Damn it! How can the lowly human race have such a powerful genius? He Shui wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said malevolently. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan's face sank and was about to attack. At this moment, the black dragon blood in He Shui's body boiled again. The innate ability of the dragon clan, boiling dragon blood. Black dragon rips the sky. Black dragon swallows the sky, can't do anything to you. Then try this move. Half-step heaven tier, martial skill, black dragon roaring sky seal. Black blood roared, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. A series of extremely mysterious seals were formed, turning into a huge black dragon seal. In the next moment, the black dragon seal was already in front of Tianyang. Oh no! Seeing this, Yu Jianshan's face changed. With his cultivation, he could naturally sense the surging dragon force from the black dragon roaring sky seal. His heart tightened, and his flying sword automatically flew out. Tianyang smiled faintly and did not move. He did not care at all. Ha ha ha! How can a martial skill like the black dragon roaring sky seal be used by me so easily? Humans are indeed a bunch of worms on the ground. At this moment, He Shui's crazy laughter sounded. In the next moment, He Shui's figure suddenly rushed into the palace. He entered the dragon necropolis. After He Shui entered the dragon necropolis, the black dragon roaring sky seal collapsed completely. This made Yu Jianshan's face extremely ugly. Damn it, you actually dare to trick us. Yu Jianshan roared. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. It's not certain who's fooling who. I haven't seen such a diligent guide in a long time. Let's go. Tianyang smiled and walked towards the dragon necropolis with his hands behind his back. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan was stunned. He followed in disbelief. Big brother, you mean you did it on purpose? Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. So what if I did? So what if I didn't? Chapter 598. As Tianyang entered the dragon necropolis, Yu Jianshan and the others followed suit. In the next moment, Tianyang's group appeared inside the palace. What a powerful dragon death chi. Tianyang frowned slightly as he looked around. The dragon death chi from before could only make people feel a little uncomfortable. Only those half-step sea of soul realm black dragons would be suppressed to such an extent. However, Tianyang was sure that even a first-layer sea of soul realm cultivator would be suppressed by the dragon death chi. That black dragon is gone. Yu Jianshan looked into the distance and said solemnly. Tianyang smiled faintly. So be it. I've already left an imprint on him. Even if he escapes to the ends of the earth, I'll be able to find him. But, are you guys all right? Tianyang turned around and looked at the group. Sun Xing forced a smile. Of course, we're fine. Before Sun Xing could finish, he fell to the ground with a plop. If even the stronger Sun Xing was like this, the others were even worse off. Even the two first-layer sea of soul realm cultivators had extremely ugly expressions. They obviously had no battle strength left. The dragon death chi couldn't be sensed by others, but it didn't mean that it couldn't harm people. Previously, they were blocked by the Heaven Tower, and the dragon death chi outside wasn't very dense, so they didn't feel it. Now that they were in the dragon necropolis, it naturally flared up. Even Ling Yuhan's face was pale. Her cultivation base was about the same as the two first-layer sea of soul realm cultivators. Although her condition was better than theirs, it was only by a little. Let's enter the Heaven Tower. I didn't think of this. I miscalculated. Heavenly Sun shook his head and summoned the Heavenly Pagoda, allowing the group of people to enter. Yuhan, you stay inside and take care of them. The deeper we go, the denser the dragon death chi. Don't leave any hidden injuries. Tianyang said. Ling Yuhan smiled bitterly and nodded. She was the last one to enter the Heaven Tower. I'm a burden. It's fine. Tianyang smiled. If it's you, then it's fine. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan smiled, moved, and walked in. Tianyang's expression turned solemn as he formed a seal with both hands. A seal imbued with majestic dragon power shot out and landed on the heavenly Yuan Tower. Immediately, the heavenly origin pagoda was filled with surging dragon energy that blocked the dragon's death aura. Tianyang then opened his spatial bag and casually put it away. With the protection of the spatial bag and dragon force, the dragon death chi, no matter how strong it was, the dragon death chi couldn't enter the tower. Only then did Yu Jianshan speak. Big brother, there's something wrong with the dragon necropolis. The strange aura here is much denser than before. Is this really the dragon necropolis with countless treasures? The dragon necropolis is the tomb of 10,000 dragons. Naturally, there are countless treasures. However, it's a tomb after all. The dragon death chi must be extremely dense. Moreover, if I'm not wrong, this place, Tianyang explained, then looked in front of him. The bones were dense, and the shape of a dragon could be vaguely seen. Countless dragon skeletons were lying here, and there was a pale white path in the middle. It made one's heart tremble. White bones as the path, 10,000 corpses paving the way. This is the first stage of the dragon necropolis, the 10,000 dragon bone path, Tianyang said. In the next moment, he walked in and stepped on a dragon corpse. Immediately, countless dragon death chi swept over and attacked Tianyang. Yu Jianshan's expression changed. The dragon death chi had already condensed into a black color. Its power was much stronger than before. As expected of the ancient dragon necropolis, the dragon death chi is much stronger than ordinary dragon necropolis. However, this thing can't do anything to me. Tianyang snorted coldly. The heavenly flame of annihilation in his body burned fiercely. The black gold flame swept out and rushed towards the black dragon death chi. Boom! The dragon death chi seemed to have a form and collided with the heavenly flame of annihilation. Countless dragon corpses began to tremble and burst out even stronger dragon death chi. However, how could the heavenly flame of annihilation, as the fusion flame of the annihilation spiritual fire and the heavenly flame of annihilation, be defeated so easily? It was a flame comparable to a rank 5 spiritual fire. Heavenly flame of annihilation, burn. Tianyang snorted coldly. His true yuan circulated, and the majestic heavenly flame of annihilation suddenly burst out. Fire controlling art, spiritual fire dragon. His hands kept forming seals, and the heavenly flame of annihilation also turned into a huge fire dragon and attacked the dragon death chi. Boom, 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 boom. The dragon death chi and the heavenly flame of annihilation collided fiercely. The dragon death chi was constantly being eliminated, but the true yuan in the heavenly flame of annihilation was also gradually being consumed. This dragon's deathly aura was indeed terrifying. Scram! Tianyang roared and circulated the divine, desolate heavenly spirit art. Surging true yuan and spiritual force surged out. Roar! The heavenly annihilation flames seemed to have the help of the gods. The fire dragon roared ferociously and directly destroyed the dragon's death aura. In the next moment, the endless heavenly annihilation flames swept up and burned the dragon's death aura. As expected of the ancient dragon tomb, this method is extraordinary. Tianyang chuckled and stepped on the piles of corpses and continued forward. On the side, Yu Jianshan was already dumbfounded. Sword controlling art, rank 5 spiritual fire, ancient fire controlling art, and 3rd level C of soul realm cultivation. Just how strong was this big brother of his? Let's go. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan seemed to wake up from a dream and hurriedly followed. The dragon death chi was burned dry by Tianyang. On the way, there were no obstructions. Tianyang and Yu Jianshan only walked for a few minutes and saw the end of the 10,000 dragon bone path. At this moment, a cold snort came from the side. Dragon death chi, it can't do anything to you. As expected of a genius of the human race, powerful as expected. However, no matter how strong a genius is in the dragon tomb, it's impossible to be a match for my dragon race. The cold snort rumbled like thunder, carrying with it a monstrous anger. In the next moment, He Shui's figure appeared in the air. Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. Looking at the crystal in his hand, his expression changed slightly. "This is a dragon soul crystal?" Tianyang said in surprise. Hearing this, He Shui laughed coldly. "At least you have some knowledge." "That's right, this is a dragon soul crystal." Hearing this, Tianyang's expression immediately turned ugly. Who knew how many dragon souls were resentful in this dragon tomb? This guy had a dragon soul crystal that could control dragon souls. "So, at this moment, you will be buried here." "Bone Dragon Army!" He Shui roared, and the golden dragon soul crystal in his hand shone brightly. Dragon power poured in crazily. In the next moment, bang, 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 bang. Tianyang only felt a tremor under his feet. Then countless white bones stood up. In their eye sockets, the dragon soul fire without any consciousness burned fiercely. Damn it, forward, back, left, right, up, down. Tianyang's expression was extremely ugly as he looked at everything around him. Chapter 599. Bone Dragon Army. Looking at the bone dragons surrounding him, Tianyang's expression was extremely unsightly. He didn't think that He Shui would have such a miraculous item like the Dragon Soul Crystal. The Dragon Soul Crystal was refined using the soul of the dragon tribe. It required a powerful dragon tribe, bloodline, and spiritual energy in order to control it. If one obtained the Dragon Soul Crystal, at the very least, it would greatly increase one's soul power. At the very most, it would be like this. At the right time and place, one could use the Dragon Soul Crystal to control the characteristics of the Dragon Soul and find an army. "Big brother, I'm afraid we can't win." Yu Jinshan's teeth were chattering. It wasn't that he was scared, but that the enemy was too strong. These bone dragons were able to be buried in the ancient dragon tomb. Their strength was definitely not weak. Moreover, the fact that their skeletons were preserved so well spoke of the strength of their original owners. In other words, these bone dragons were all experts in ancient times. I'm afraid that the weakest of them was at the first layer of Sea of Soul Realm. The strongest few, such as that bone dragon with a golden body, might have the strength of a spirit king, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan's face turned even paler. Strength of a spirit king? In this pile of bone dragons, there were more than a dozen with a golden body, more than a dozen spirit kings ganging up on him. Did he still want his life? Even if he used the defensive sword technique at full strength, he might not be able to charge out of the range of the bone path. At that time, wouldn't he be ganged up on by the skeletons? Ha ha! Weren't you very arrogant? Now you want to be arrogant? You actually dared to enter the dragon tomb. You're courting death. As for He Shui himself, he stood on the shoulder of the strongest golden bone dragon and laughed wildly. Before, he was oppressed in front of Tianyang and Yu Jinshan. What was the result? How long had it been? He relied on the dragon's soul crystal to counterattack. The flesh and blood of a human genius must be extremely good. Although I don't cultivate a demonic Tao martial skill that devours flesh and blood, I can still eat it. At that time, my strength will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Oh, right, this human kid also has the Dragon King's divine fist. The inheritance of the Dragon Necropolis, the Dragon King divine fist. At that time, I, Black Blood, will become the new patriarch of the Dark Dragon Clan and lead the Dark Dragon Clan to rule the world. Black Blood calculated. At this moment, Tianyang took a deep breath and calmed himself down. At that moment, he could be said to have fallen into a desperate situation. Conservatively speaking, there were at least several thousand bone dragons here. He could casually kill several thousand first-level Sea of Soul Realm warriors, but several thousand bone dragons that were at least first-level Sea of Soul Realm were extremely difficult for him to deal with. However, it wasn't as if there was no chance of survival. The core of the Bone Dragon Army is the Dragon Soul Crystal in Black Blood's hands. In other words, as long as I obtain the Dragon Soul Crystal, the Bone Dragon Army will be useless. Tianyang's eyes shone as he looked at the black blood on the ground. He made a detailed plan in his mind. Beside him, Yu Jianxin took out his flying sword with a resolute expression. If a man dies, his bird will face the sky. If he doesn't die, he will live 1,000 years. Aren't they just a bunch of dregs? I'll fight it out with them. Yu Jianxin roared. In the next moment, he used the controlling sword art and charged at the bone dragon. Roar! Yu Jianxin moved, and so did the bone dragon. These bone dragons only had bones and no Jin Yuan. However, as a member of the dragon race, even if they only had bones, their strength was extremely terrifying. Pum! Yu Jianxin held his flying sword and barely managed to block the attack of a third-level C of Soul Realm Bone Dragon. However, his internal organs were shaken. At this moment, another claw came at him. Damn it! Yu Jianxin was furious. Soul power and Jin Yuan swept out. I don't believe it. These guys that have been dead for millions of years, can they still overturn the heavens? Controlling sword art. Sword splitting 10,000 shadows. Yu Jianxin roared. In the next moment, the flying sword in his hand transformed into countless flying sword phantoms and charged at the incoming claw. Bang! Yu Jianxin flew back and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely pale. As for the 5th-level C of Soul Realm Bone Dragon that attacked him, it didn't react at all. F***CK. Are these dragon bones made from high-grade spirit tools? Yu Jianxin couldn't help but curse. At this moment, the other bone dragon also changed direction and punched out. Big brother, save me, Yu Jianxin roared. At this moment, Tianyang had dealt with everything. Sky Firmament Sword martial soul's innate talent. Devour heaven. Waves of enormous devouring power erupted from Tianyang's body. Tianyang's gaze was also extremely cold. The void sword embryo in his hand shone with an unparalleled radiance. The Nether River Sword's Nether Death Chi was useless against these bone dragons. However, the void sword embryo couldn't be any more suitable. After all, the void sword embryo was a sword embryo that existed above spirit tools. Surging devouring power erupted, and Tianyang's aura rapidly soared. Even the bone dragon attacking Yu Jianxin was stunned at this moment. That soul fire without intelligence began to violently throb, as if it had sensed some fatal threat. Roar! The bone dragon roared. It actually gave up on attacking Yu Jianxin and charged towards Tianyang. At this moment, black blood finally reacted. Looking at the heavenly sun that was devouring the surrounding energy, even the dragon's death aura in the bone dragon's body, his heart was shaken. Just what kind of method did this human youth use? Damn it! Bone Dragon Army, kill him! The dragon's soul crystal in Black Blood's hand erupted with resplendent light. Hearing this, countless bone dragons let out deep roars and charged towards Tianyang. The bone path of 10,000 dragons and several thousand bone dragons attacked Heavenly Sun together. Shit! Big brother run! Seeing this, Yu Jianxin's expression changed greatly. He couldn't care about himself anymore and hurriedly used his sword-controlling technique to attack. However, Yu Jianxin was still injured. In terms of speed, he couldn't compare to the bone dragons. Die for me! Black Blood roared crazily. At this moment, 5 dragon claws with boundless power that could shatter space charged towards Tianyang. Big brother, retreat! Yu Jianxin roared. At this moment, the devouring power on Tianyang's body abruptly weakened. The boundless spiritual sea was almost filled with the energy he had just absorbed. In the next moment, Tianyang used the divine desolate heaven spirit art to convert all of this energy. Peak of the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of the 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm. 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Spirit King Realm. Finally, 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm, peak. With one devouring, his cultivation rose by 3.5 levels. This, Yu Jianxin was dumbfounded. At this moment, Tianyang's eyes also slowly opened. An aura that was strong enough to destroy everything burst out from his body. Want to kill me? An extremely indifferent voice came out of Tianyang's mouth. Hearing this, the soul flames of countless bone dragons began to tremble. Then die. Sky Extreme Sword Arts fourth sword, firmament. Tianyang roared and slashed out with the void sword embryo in his hand. One sword, ascending firmament. An extremely terrifying sword light erupted from the void sword embryo, instantly shattering the 5 incoming dragon claws. Even the owners of the dragon claws were killed by the firmament sword. In the next moment, the firmament sword light suddenly accelerated. Bang! Pung 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 pung. The space exploded, and countless bone dragons were smashed into smithereens under this sword. Even the golden bone dragon of the Spirit King realm was no exception. All of them turned into bone powder at the bottom of his feet. Tianyang stood on top of the countless white bones with the void sword embryo in his hand. Killing intent emanated from his body, as if he was a peerless killing god. Seeing this, Yu Jianshun was dumbfounded. Chapter 600. Looking at the scene before him, black blood felt chills all over his body, and even his teeth were chattering. He found it hard to understand how, in these few short minutes, Tianyang had transformed from a human youth who could be trampled upon by anyone to an unrivaled killing god who could kill gods and Buddhas who stood in his way. That long sword looked incomplete, but it gave him the feeling that it was not the slightest bit weaker than the long swords in the Dark Dragon clan's treasury. How is this possible? Black Blood muttered to himself. In the next moment, a ruthless aura erupted from his eyes. The dragon soul crystal in his hand shone with endless light, and in the next moment he controlled the golden skeletal dragon beneath his feet and charged out. This golden skeletal dragon was countless times stronger than ordinary golden skeletal dragons. It was a golden skeletal dragon with strength at the 7th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Even if Tai Wuji was here, he might not be able to defeat this golden skeletal dragon. After all, if Tianyang was not wrong, this skeletal dragon was the guardian of this dragon necropolis. It was specially refined to guard the dragon necropolis. In terms of physical strength, it might not be weaker than a Heaven Ascension Realm expert. Even if it died now, as a skeletal dragon, it still had the strength of a 7th level Sea of Soul Realm expert. Even an 8th level Sea of Soul Realm expert might not be able to shake the skeleton of a Heaven Ascension Realm expert. At present, Tianyang was only at the peak of the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm, the lowest level of Spirit King. Black Blood was naturally confident that he could kill Tianyang. Golden skeletal dragon, kill him! Black Blood roared. In the next moment, black dragon power erupted, and his entire person retreated. The dragon's soul crystal shone brightly, and rays of golden light shot out from the dragon's soul crystal, entering the golden skeletal dragon's body. The soul fire in the golden skeletal dragon's eye sockets also became more vigorous, and its aura strengthened by a lot. Oh, he poured all the dragon's soul force from the dragon's soul crystal into this golden skeletal dragon? Tianyang raised his brows, looking at the golden skeletal dragon that had suddenly become more powerful, and chuckled. Tianyang killed a bone dragon as easily as chopping vegetables. Holding the great void sword embryo in his hand, he slowly moved forward. Waves of violent killing intent erupted from his body. To be buried in the dragon necropolis in the chaotic ancient times, at the very least, there must be a certain number of heroes who fought against the demons. However, you managed to control them with the dragon's soul crystal, causing their remnant souls to be unable to rest in peace. Tianyang said coldly. The true Yuan in his body surged out violently. Seeing this, He Shui's face changed drastically, revealing a look of struggle. In the next moment, Black Blood's expression turned ferocious. You, a human, dare to say this to me, a dragon? If these dragons die here, they'll become ordinary bones with no value at all. I'll be the only one left. I made use of them and let them fight, so that they could display all their remaining value. That's the right thing to do. It was I who made their deaths worthwhile. Even if these dragons are still alive, they still have to thank me. He Shui said ferociously. Hearing this, the injured Yu Jinshin's face turned extremely ugly. Bastard. Tianyang's face turned gloomy. He did not expect He Shui to be so shameless. If that's the case, then I won't be polite. I believe that those dragons who opened up the dragon necropolis will not mind that there's a scum in the dragon necropolis after countless years. In the next moment, Tianyang used the dragon roaming 9 heaven steps to kill. Roar! The golden bone dragon, which only had a trace of soul fire left, roared towards the sky. It waved its golden dragon claws and charged towards Tianyang. Oomph! Human ant, go to hell. He Shui snorted coldly. The dragon's soul crystal in his hand shone brightly as he controlled the golden bone dragon to attack. Sky Extreme Sword Technique, Third Sword, Star Burial. Tianyang's face was cold as he slashed out with the Great Void, Sword Embryo. A sword light as resplendent as a galaxy shot out and heavily bombarded the golden bone dragon's body. Immediately, a deep crack appeared on the heaven-reaching realm skeleton from Tianyang's slash. With just one more slash, this bone would break. What? Seeing this, He Shui's face changed greatly. His eyes were filled with deep shock. How is this possible? A human who relied on some method to reach peak 5th level C of Soul Realm could actually injure the skeleton of a heaven-reaching realm dragon. This kid is definitely a super genius of the human race's great forces. He Shui growled. Then, his gaze towards Tianyang suddenly changed. It was filled with greed, lust, and killing intent. If I devour him, my cultivation will definitely advance countless times. He Shui's eyes burned with the flames of greed. The Dark Dragon Clan was originally a dragon clan that devoured their enemies to advance. The reason why He Ming of the Dark Dragon Clan had plotted to kill Long Haoyan was precisely because of this. As a genius of the Golden Dragon Clan, Long Haoyan's flesh and blood was definitely a great supplement to the Dark Dragon Clan. And He Ming was also a genius of the Dark Dragon Clan. If he devoured Long Haoyan, his strength would definitely advance countless times. Unfortunately, at the last moment, Long Haoyan risked his life to escape and didn't end up being devoured by He Ming. But in the end, his soul power was exhausted, and he died after entrusting his vengeance to Tianyang. The current Tianyang naturally saw through He Ming's thoughts from the way he looked at He Ming. This kind of clan is truly disgusting. Tianyang said indifferently, looking at the golden bone dragon charging over again. The disgust in his heart grew even stronger. Therefore, there's no need for them to exist in this world. Tianyang snorted coldly. In the next moment, the Great Void sword embryo in his hand erupted with streams of Xingguang. The half-step heaven tier martial spirit, Sky Firmament Sword, was released. Apart from devouring other people's martial spirits and using the sky-devouring secret technique, Sky Firmament Sword itself had the effect of increasing the power of sword moves. And at this moment, the 108 true dragon patterns on Tianyang's true dragon core released a shocking radiance. Surging dragon power converged, and in the next moment, the true dragon power erupted. Dragon, sword divine ability, true dragon, king sword. Roar. And at this moment, the 7th level C of Soul Realm Golden Bone Dragon also charged madly towards Tianyang. The terrifying physical strength on its claws was enough to smash a 7th level C of Soul Realm Spirit King into meat paste. Die for me, human bastard. He Shui roared madly, and the dragon's soul crystal in his hand completely erupted. Surging dragon power was released, and the black dragon power covered the entire golden bone dragon's body. The originally extremely powerful dragon claw attack became even stronger at this moment. True Dragon King Sword and Sky Extreme Sword Art, 4th Sword, Firmament. And Tianyang's eyes shone as he looked at the approaching golden bone dragon, and a trace of a smile appeared in his heart. Peak 5th level C of Soul Realm True Essence within his body instantly erupted. The 109th Nether pattern also released Boundless Nether Power, which gushed out along with Nether Death Chi. Styx River Sword Art 5th Style. Chapter 601. River Styx Sword Style, 5th Style, Reincarnation Dao. Tianyang roared. Surging Nether Death Chi and Nether Power gushed out. as well as Sky Extreme Sword Arts and True Dragon King Sword. The three strongest sword moves were fused into one by Tianyang and executed at the same time. An extremely terrifying might also erupted, sweeping through the entire 10,000 dragon bone path. Even those bone dragons whose soul fire hadn't been completely extinguished trembled a few times after feeling the might and were completely annihilated. How is this possible? Blackblood's face was filled with shock. This human youth was only at the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. Even now, he was only at the peak of the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. However, how could he execute a sword move that was comparable to an 8th level Sea of Soul Realm? Boundless reincarnation, endless life and death. Tianyang's sword slashed out, and a black and white alternating sword light shot out. And under his feet, the slaughter domain also miraculously transformed into the reincarnation domain. Azura Dao, Reincarnation Dao, Heaven Dao, Human Dao, Demonic Dao, and the last El Dao. These were the 6 Daos of Heaven Continent, different from other worlds. The last 6 moves of River Stick Sword Style were based on these 6 Daos. And now, Tianyang executed the 5th style, Reincarnation Dao. Life and Death Reincarnation. Boom, boom, boom. Sword light shot out, causing the entire 10,000 dragon bone path to tremble. Black Blood's expression was extremely unsightly as he frantically activated the dragon's soul crystal. Damn it, block it for me. Black Blood roared. The Golden Bone Dragon also used its strongest move, fiercely colliding with the Reincarnation Dao. Boom! The entire world seemed to have stopped. The physical strength of Heaven Ascension Realm and the 3 combined swords that were comparable to an 8th level Sea of Soul Realm's full power collided. The world shook, and the sun and moon lost their light. This is Big Brother's true strength. Yu Jianshun, who was standing to the side, was dumbfounded. He asked himself, what would happen if I was the one facing this attack? Even if he had an exquisite Imperial sword technique, a 5th level Sea of Soul Realm cultivation, and the life-saving trump card bestowed by the half-step Heaven Ascension Realm ancestor of the Imperial Sword sect, it was impossible for him to block this sword move for even a second. This Big Brother, I've decided. Yu Jianshun was overwhelmed with emotions. He had always been arrogant, but in front of Tianyang, a youth who was 20 years younger than him, he was completely convinced, and at this time, the dragon blood within Black Blood's body boiled once more. In a single day, he had used dragon blood boil 3 times in a row. Even Black Blood's complexion was pale, and there were many sequelae. But no matter how many effects, they couldn't compare. It was death. If the golden skeletal dragon couldn't block this sword, then he would die as well. Roar! The golden bone dragon roared. Its soul fire was rapidly consuming its remaining soul power. It revolved its skeletal body and charged at the heavenly sun. As for Tianyang, he was madly injecting his true essence, dragon force, and netherworld force into the sword light. It's a pity that I used to be at least in the reaching heaven state, but after transforming into a bone dragon, my physical strength was greatly reduced, and I was even used by this scum like this. But don't worry, I'll help you transcend immediately. Tianyang sighed softly. In the next moment, the true dragon's dragon core was activated, and a pressure that belonged to a true dragon erupted. The divine dragon blood essence that Tianyang had absorbed into his body but was still unable to refine also released a surging pressure, firmly suppressing the golden skeletal dragon on the spot. In the next moment, sword light erupted. The golden skeletal dragon's body was sliced into 2 by the reincarnation path, formed by the 3 swords. The true origin energy surged up, and it was completely reduced to ashes. The golden bone dragon had fallen. The golden bone dragon fell, and the dragon's soul crystal shattered along with it. Black Blood's face was pale as he took a few steps back. How is that possible? How could this be? How can a human ant be so strong? Black Blood roared furiously. Upon hearing that, Tianyang smiled faintly. He stepped on the reincarnation realm, and the great void sword embryo in his hand shone brightly. The reincarnation realm was not something that Tianyang had comprehended. It was something that the great void sword embryo, an existence that surpassed spiritual weapons, had absorbed the power of the reincarnation path and formed on its own. However, even so, it was enough to increase the power of the reincarnation path greatly. If not for that, Tianyang would not have been able to crush the body of the golden bone dragon. Nothing is impossible in this world. Since we're already in the depths of the dragon necropolis, I don't need you to lead the way. You can go and die now. Tianyang smiled faintly. In the next moment, he executed the Void Step secret skill, and his body instantly disappeared from the spot. Then, a magnificent sword light appeared above Black Blood's head. No! Black Blood roared furiously, and the boiling dragon blood instantly burned. Black Blood looked even more dispirited. However, his speed had increased to an extremely powerful level. Dragon blood burn? This guy doesn't want to live anymore. Even if he survives, this dragon will lose the power of his bloodline and be abandoned by the dragon clan. Tianyang was slightly shocked. Looking at Black Blood, who was desperately trying to avoid his sword light, he smiled in his heart. Although the Void Step secret skill of the Spiritual King realm was still at the fourth heaven of the Void Step secret skill, his speed was much faster than before. Even if Black Blood used the Dragon Blood Burn, Tianyang could still easily catch up with him. Let's go! Tianyang shouted and charged out again. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan seemed to have woken up from a dream. He executed the Imperial Sword technique and charged out with Tianyang. As for Black Blood, he was constantly moving through the complicated dragon necropolis. He stepped on countless dragon corpses and occasionally looked back. However, no matter how long he ran and how far he went, he could see Tianyang's smiling face every time he turned back. Damn it! Black Blood roared in his heart. In the next moment, he suddenly charged into a huge open space. In the middle of the open space, there was a huge pool with a golden liquid flowing. It was constantly fluctuating, and waves of dragon power were dissipating into the air. This is the Dragon Transformation Pool. It's the ancient Dragon Transformation Pool. He Shui exclaimed in shock. His heart was filled with wild joy. As long as I enter the Dragon Transformation Pool to cultivate, I can make up for the price of burning my dragon blood. My strength will definitely improve, and I'll be able to kill the people outside. Ancient Dragon Transformation Pool? Then I can't continue playing around. Tianyang, who was far behind, sensed the existence of the ancient Dragon Transformation Pool from the soul imprint on Black Blood's body. His heart trembled slightly. He suddenly increased his speed and arrived at Black Blood's location. At this moment, Black Blood was about to step into the Dragon Transformation Pool. You, why are you here? Black Blood looked at Tianyang, who suddenly appeared, and roared in shock. Then, Black Blood looked at the Dragon Transformation Pool, not far away. He was filled with anger. Black dragon power gathered in his hand, and he charged over. Even if it's destroyed, I won't give it to a lowly human like you. Black Blood roared. At this moment, Tianyang shook his head. I can't be bothered to play with you. Then explode. Boom! The soul imprint hidden in Black Blood's body instantly exploded. Black Blood's body immediately stiffened on the spot. Then, Tianyang's sword light sliced it into smithereens. Chapter 602. After killing He Shui, Tianyang did not even spare him a glance. Instead, he walked to the side of the Dragon Transformation Pool. Luckily, the Void Step secret technique was powerful enough to allow him to arrive before He Shui destroyed the Dragon Transformation Pool. Otherwise, this precious Dragon Transformation Pool that had been left behind since ancient times would be finished. Although the energy of the Dragon Transformation Pool was still there, it was barely able to maintain a balance. If He Shui had thrown an energy ball at it, the Dragon Transformation Pool would have been destroyed. Luckily, I made it in time. However, it won't be easy to absorb the energy of the Dragon Transformation Pool. Tianyang muttered to himself. Looking at the clear, golden Dragon Transformation Pool, he could feel the enormous amount of pure dragon energy within it even without using his soul force. This dragon transformation pool was much more powerful than the dragon transformation pool in the dragon-hidden ancient land. The energy inside is barely able to maintain a balance and not explode. If I go in, although I won't explode, I'll probably be battered to death by the energy of the dragon transformation pool. Tianyang muttered to himself. However, his feet did not stop moving. It was just pain, so what? 10,000 divine flames. Endless spiritual seas, which one of them wasn't stronger than now. Tianyang had already stepped into the spiritual sea realm for some time. It had been even longer since he had broken through to the true dragon body. After such a long period of accumulation, Tianyang's physical strength had already reached the limit of the true dragon body. Now, there was an ancient dragon transformation pool left behind. Tianyang naturally had to seize this opportunity to cultivate the nine-tempered dragon body and break through to the true dragon body. Earth dragon physique, flood dragon physique, heavenly dragon physique, true dragon physique, divine dragon physique. The divine dragon body was the realm that Crimson Dragon Wuzun was at when he left this world. The ancestral dragon body and dragon king body were only described in a few words. Obviously, they were just hypotheses. In other words, if Tianyang broke through to the divine dragon body here, he would be an entire realm earlier than Crimson Dragon Wuzun. Divine dragon body. It just so happens that I have the divine dragon blood essence in my body. Why don't I refine it as well? Tianyang smiled and stepped into the dragon transformation pool. Boom! After Tianyang stepped into the dragon transformation pool, which had been barely balanced, it instantly began to boil. Countless streams of dragon power rushed towards Tianyang's body like blades. Tianyang's expression changed slightly, but he still endured it. It was just the dragon transformation pool. If they cannot even pass this obstacle, how could they break through this world? How could they find the truth behind the great destruction and take revenge? 9 refined dragon body rise. Tianyang roared. His surging true essence revolved, and the true dragon core completely erupted. Even the mystical dragon essence blood showed signs of activity. Endless dragon power started to boil at this moment. Breaking through to the divine dragon body is much more complicated than ordinary breakthroughs. The first step is to cleanse the impurities in the body. Pieces of flesh on Tianyang's skin had already burst open, but they were healed by the tyrannical power of the true dragon body. Between healing and destruction, Tianyang's pain became even more intense. Tianyang's expression did not change. He remained calm. Then, I'll use this enormous dragon power to cleanse my body. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then he closed his eyes and began to cleanse and refine his body. Endless dragon power entered Tianyang's body. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. His entire body, including his internal organs, felt as if they had been cut countless times by small knives. If this kind of pain was inflicted on an ordinary person, it would be enough to kill them. However, Tianyang's expression did not change. He activated the 9 refined dragon body and quickly refined the dragon power that entered his body. 2 hours later, Tianyang's body was unknowingly covered in a layer of black mud. Even his face was no exception. It emitted a disgusting stench. However, Tianyang's expression did not change at all when he noticed the stench. Instead, he was ecstatic. The dragon transformation pool is many times more powerful than the dragon transformation pool of ordinary dragons. I originally thought that I could only cleanse a portion of the impurities. I didn't expect to be able to expel all of them. Tianyang exclaimed in shock. Impurities were hidden in the body and were extremely difficult to expel. Only during a breakthrough could some of them be expelled. However, the amount expelled was extremely small. Tianyang's physical strength was rare in the world. Therefore, the impurities in his body were extremely small and difficult to expel. Even with a miraculous item like the dragon transformation pool, Tianyang did not think that he could expel all of them. He did not expect to actually expel them. Tianyang only felt that his entire body was refreshed. His physical strength seemed to have broken free from the heavy shackles and was extremely powerful. If there were no accidents, then with his current mortal body strength alone, Tianyang could smash a dragon on the level of black blood into a pulp with a single punch. This ancient dragon transformation pool is definitely not an ordinary dragon transformation pool. Tianyang's eyes shone. He felt the strong and pure dragon power that was like a vast ocean. He was extremely shocked. Others did not know what a dragon transformation pool of this level represented, but Tianyang knew. This meant that this dragon tomb was very likely to contain a dragon emperor of the Heaven Ascension realm. Earthly Emperor's small world is just a small world. However, it has such a dragon transformation pool and possibly a dragon emperor. This Earthly Emperor's small world is really a big secret, Tianyang muttered to himself. However, whether it was the secret of Earthly Emperor's small world or the Dragon Emperor, it had nothing to do with him at this moment. At this moment, he only wanted to condense the divine dragon body. The impurities had been perfectly removed. Now, there's only one step left. Tianyang chuckled. The real dragon elixir in his body erupted with rolling dragon power. The divine dragon blood essence also suddenly burned. Countless amounts of blood essence were separated and integrated into Tianyang's body. Tianyang's body suddenly shook. It was as if a strong force was injected into his body. Flames burned in his eyes. The next moment, he formed a seal. 9 refined dragon body. 5th refinement, divine dragon body. Boom! Tianyang's body suddenly exploded with a loud bang. The dragon power in the surrounding dragon transformation pool was rapidly refined by Tianyang and rapidly strengthened Tianyang's body. Tianyang did not idle around. He refined a portion of the divine dragon blood essence into physical strength and integrated the rest into the real dragon elixir. Roar! After an unknown period of time, a deafening dragon roar erupted from Tianyang's body. A 5-clawed divine dragon appeared behind Tianyang. The divine dragon's shadow appeared. The divine dragon body was formed. In the next moment, Tianyang soared into the sky. The devouring heaven seal erupted and swallowed all the remaining dragon power into the real dragon elixir that had not completely transformed into the divine dragon elixir. At this moment, Tianyang raised his head. The 9 refined dragon body was rapidly operating. Roar! The last drop of divine dragon blood essence integrated into the real dragon elixir. At this moment, the real dragon elixir had completely transformed into the divine dragon elixir. Roar! A terrifying divine dragon roar sounded. The 5-clawed divine dragon shadow behind Tianyang also drilled into Tianyang's body and integrated into the divine dragon elixir. Divine dragon elixir formed. Divine dragon body formed. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. He stood in the air, without the use of true origin or secret techniques. Just the strength of his physical body was enough to stand in the void. Finally, he punched out. Chapter 603. Divine Dragon Body Success. When Tianyang saw himself throw out a punch and almost tear down the entire open space, he clearly recognized this point. This open space was built for the dragon transformation pool. Compared to the 10,000 dragon bone path from before, it was much more precious. The degree of sturdiness was naturally countless times stronger. If it were the Tianyang from before, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to break it even if he was beaten to death. However, the current Tianyang, relying solely on the strength of his physical body, almost shattered the entire dragon transformation pool. Tianyang's strength welcomed a huge leap. Not bad. As expected of the Crimson Dragon, Wu Zun's limit before breaking through to the Wu Zun realm. This divine dragon body is more than a level stronger than a true dragon body. Tianyang descended and laughed lightly. Endless power surged within his body. Tianyang even had a feeling that he could fight a Spirit King with just the strength of his physical body. Of course, it was only a feeling. Although the current Tianyang's physical body was comparable to a human at the 6th or 7th level of the Sea of Soul realm, his true essence was still far from being able to keep up. However, if he used the heaven-devouring secret technique, it would be more than enough to instantly kill the golden skeletal dragon from before. Long Hao Tian, it's also time to avenge you. Tianyang laughed lightly. then stepped out of the dragon transformation pool. He Shui was already dead, and the group of black dragons outside was leaderless. They already didn't have much battle strength left. In order to avenge Long Haotian, Tianyang naturally wouldn't hold back. Of course, Tianyang wouldn't only kill that group of weaklings. His true target was the current Black Dragon clan's patriarch, He Ming, and his partner, Long Haotian's former lover, Long Xinyan. Only by killing these two dragons would Long Haotian's great enmity be avenged. However, the most important thing right now is to take a good look at this dragon tomb. Since this dragon tomb might be the tomb of a dragon emperor, then it can't be underestimated. Tianyang smiled faintly. The dragon emperor was a reaching heaven realm dragon. Moreover, he was a reaching heaven realm dragon who could kill a practitioner of the same realm in a head-on battle. To be able to reach the reaching heaven state, one must have endless means. Not only offensive means, defensive means, desperate means, and escape means must be extraordinary. Under such circumstances, even a cultivator at the 3rd or 4th level of the heavenly completion stage would find it extremely difficult to truly kill a cultivator at the 2nd level of the heavenly completion stage. Not to mention killing an expert of the same level. Previously, when Tianyang saw the 7th level Sea of Soul Realm Golden Skeletal Dragon, he had some doubts. How could an ordinary dragon tomb have such a powerful guardian? With the addition of the dragon transformation pool at the back, Tianyang was even more certain of the origin of this dragon tomb. In the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, even if the corpse can't be moved, the burial items are treasures that can shake the entire heaven continent. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then, according to the soul imprint, he searched for Yu Jinshan's whereabouts. Previously, he had been so focused on chasing and breaking through that he had forgotten about Yu Jinshan. Fortunately, the dragon death chi had been drawn out by Tianyang and burned away. Otherwise, with Yu Jinshan's injuries, he might have died. Damn, what's going on? Tianyang was shocked. Looking at Yu Jinshan in front of him, he had a feeling that he couldn't recognize him. Previously, Yu Jinshan had been beaten up by the Bone Dragon army. He had even been affected by the shock waves of his battle with the Golden Skeletal Dragon. Even if he hadn't died, he would have been heavily injured. And the result? Now, not only was Yu Jinshan alive and kicking, he was also holding a huge golden sword. It was made of pure gold. Mortals wouldn't even be able to pick it up. However, for cultivators, it was easy. It was just that it was completely meaningless. Moreover, there was a long sword on Yu Jinshan's back. It looked completely different from the flying sword from before. Tianyang was baffled. Yu Jinshan had been on the brink of death before, but it took him less than 2 hours to condense the divine dragon body. Why did this Yu Jinshan seem like a completely different person? Hee, big brother, you threw me down before. I didn't know where you went, so I started to wander around. Although this dragon necropolis is large, my sword controlling technique has reached a level where I can command it like an extension of my arm. The speed of my search is very fast. I immediately found several treasure rooms. I ate a few pills and refined them. My injuries have mostly healed. Moreover, I still have a lot of things in my spatial pouch. Yu Jinshan laughed. Hearing this, his eyebrows jumped. He was surprised by Yu Jinshan's good luck. Although the dragon necropolis was the tomb of 10,000 dragons, and the main purpose of this dragon necropolis was to bury the dragon emperor, there were countless treasures. However, they weren't easy to find. Looking at Yu Jinshan's appearance, not only did he find them, he even found quite a few. Tianyang could only sigh at Yu Jinshan's great fortune. This was something that couldn't be envied. Right, big brother, these are for you. At this time, Yu Jinshan hurriedly rummaged through his spatial pouch and took out everything inside. Pills, medicinal ingredients, treasures, spiritual tools, precious tools, all kinds of powerful magical beast bones, and a bunch of strange things that Tianyang couldn't identify. However, Tianyang could feel that these strange things weren't weak. Did you dig through the Dragon Emperor's tomb? Tianyang was dumbfounded. Just the things that Yu Jinshan had taken out had already piled up into a small mountain. Moreover, Yu Jinshan wasn't done yet. He was still falling down. Even if the Dragon Clan liked to collect wealth, it wasn't something that they could take out so easily. Dragon Emperor's tomb. However, Yu Jianxin caught the main point in Tianyang's words. His expression changed slightly. This dragon necropolis is the Dragon Emperor's? To be able to use a Heaven Ascension realm puppet guardian and a powerful ancient dragon transformation pool, the Dragon Emperor is just the foundation. Who knows, it might even be the Dragon Saint or Dragon Emperor, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Yu Jianxin was completely shocked. Dragon Emperor? Dragon Saint? Dragon Emperor? This dragon necropolis was in existence of this level. No wonder Black Blood was so crazy. After encountering such a level of opportunity, he would also be crazy. Right, how is that Black Dragon? Yu Jianxin quickly adjusted his state of mind. The Dragon Emperor's tomb wasn't something that a cultivator of his level could touch. Dead. I killed him, Tianyang said casually. Hearing this, Yu Jianxin was stunned for a moment before nodding. He didn't find it strange. After a few minutes, all the treasures in Yu Jianxin's spatial pouch were finally taken out. It's these. It took me a lot of effort to put them in, but the harvest is quite bountiful. Yu Jianxin laughed mischievously. Afterwards, his true yuan surged out and swept up the thousands of treasures in front of Tianyang. Big brother, these things are all yours. Chapter 604. For me, Tianyang was stunned. He looked at Yu Jianxin as if he was looking at an idiot. Is there something wrong with your head? These items were all taken from the Dragon Necropolis treasury. They were all-encompassing, ranging from low-grade treasured weapons and first-grade elixirs to fifth-grade elixirs and middle-grade spirit weapons. There was nothing they did not have. It could be said that these things were worth hundreds of billions of low-grade spiritual stones. They were enough to equip a small sect. If the Flying Sword sect had these things, they would only need one more Heaven Ascension expert to become a holy land of martial arts. It would be much easier than the Sun Moon sect. At that time, as the head disciple of the Flying Sword sect, Yu Jianxin's status would rise. At that time, it would be impossible for him not to make a breakthrough. But now, they were all given to Tianyang? Yu Jianxin's face fell. He said, "Yes, I'm giving them to you. Although I found these things, they have nothing to do with me. If it weren't for your map, I might not have come here, let alone found such a huge opportunity like the Dragon Necropolis. If you hadn't interfered in the battle before, I probably would have died to the head of the bone dragon long ago. If I don't repay you for saving my life, I'll stab myself to death," Yu Jianxin said with a smile. Yu Jianxin said sincerely. Hearing that, Tianyang was immediately speechless. His hand, that was about to retreat, also retracted. He could tell that Yu Jianxin was serious. If Tianyang refused, Yu Jianxin might not immediately stab him to death, but he would definitely return these items. Suddenly, Tianyang smiled. It was a very happy and clean smile. To a senior disciple of a sect, there was no doubt that Yu Jianxin was an idiot to the point of being ridiculously stupid. What grace of saving one's life! These things were all empty in a world of martial Tao. The only thing that could be trusted was one's own strength. These things could definitely help Yu Jianxin obtain a lot of cultivation opportunities. They could even increase his talent. It could be said that these things worth hundreds of billions of low-grade spiritual stones could push Yu Jianxin to the Heaven Ascension realm. When a sovereign descends, no one dares to disobey. Such a position was something that countless people would strive for. However, Yu Jianxin had directly pushed it out. However, this was also the reason why Tianyang laughed. Ever since his rebirth, he had seen far too many schemes and battles of life and death. People as pure as Yu Jianxin were far too rare. Then I'll accept it. However, if you need anything, you can tell me. Tianyang chuckled and took it back. Then, he looked at the complicated Dragon Necropolis secret tunnel and smiled. Now, since you have given me so many things, I can't accept them for nothing. Go, look at Raba's tomb. Is this the Dragon Emperor's tomb? You are indeed mighty and domineering. Tianyang released his soul power and easily found the most majestic tomb at the center of the Dragon Necropolis. Just by looking at this tomb from the outside, one could feel the majesty and domineering aura of this tomb. Moreover, in his senses, he could feel waves of dragon energy leaking out from the tomb and being sensed by Tianyang and Yu Jianshun. Yu Jianshun shivered as he looked at the door that hadn't even moved a bit. Just the leakage of energy from the door was already so powerful. What if it was opened? Wouldn't it be able to crush him to death? As for Tianyang, he didn't feel anything. He had the body of a divine dragon. In terms of dragon energy, the Dragon Emperor inside might not even be as strong as him. Yes, it seems like it is the Dragon Emperor. That's right. The Dragon Emperor in this earthly emperor small world is already very powerful. The Dragon Emperor is probably not enough. Tianyang muttered to himself and then walked forward. Seeing this, Yu Jianshun was scared out of his wits. Big brother, what are you doing? You can't throw away your life like this. This is the Dragon Emperor. Just this pressure alone is enough to crush someone to death. Yu Jianshun turned pale with fright. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly and a cold light flashed in his hand. The stick's sword appeared. In the next moment, Tianyang's sword slashed fiercely at the door. Roar! The door didn't move, but two golden bone dragons suddenly rushed out from the stone walls on both sides. Only their soulfire eyes looked at Tianyang, and a bloody killing intent was released. Seeing this, Yu Jianshen's expression changed greatly. These two golden bone dragons were not inferior to the golden bone dragons from before. Tianyang was already having a hard time dealing with one golden bone dragon. Now that two of them were added together, it was even stronger than 1 + 1. Big brother, run! Yu Jianshun roared and used the Imperial Sword technique. A flying sword rushed out and attacked the two golden bone dragons. With his Imperial Sword technique, he could definitely delay them for a few seconds. At that time, with Tianyang's terrifying speed, bringing the two of them out would be no problem. However, Tianyang smiled faintly and casually destroyed Yu Jianshen's Imperial Sword technique. Looking at the golden bone dragon that was dozens of meters long and only had bones, he slashed out with his sword. Sky Extreme Sword Technique. First sword technique, Sky Soaring. The power of the first sword was not as strong as the later ones. As Tianyang's strength increased, he used it less and less. But now that he used it, the power was still great. Boom! A terrifying sound rang out. Immediately, a mark was left on the two golden bone dragons' bones. The two golden bone dragons were completely enraged. Trespassers of the Dragon Emperor's tomb die. The golden bone dragons roared. In the next moment, one of them suddenly attacked. Its golden dragon claw slammed down, wanting to crush Tianyang into meat paste. However, Tianyang smiled faintly. Stick's sword technique, fifth move, reincarnation path. Netherworld death chi, netherworld force, stick sword, and stick sword technique. The four powerful objects from the succession of the undead world merged into one at that instant and unleashed their power. If it was just the stick sword technique, even if it was executed with the great void sword embryo, it was far inferior to the stick sword. Boom! The sword that carried the reincarnation of life and death fiercely collided with the golden bone dragon's claw. The power of life and death rotated continuously and directly destroyed the dragon's claw. Roar! This golden bone dragon's intelligence was clearly much higher than the one from the Thousand Dragon Bone path. With a furious roar, the other dragon reacted and charged at Tianyang. The moment the two golden bone dragons appeared, a golden dragon force instantly gushed out and merged with their dragon claws. At this moment, the two dragon claws had the power of a Heaven Ascension realm expert. It was actually dragon force. Tianyang's heart skipped a beat. Then, he felt relieved. How could the Dragon Emperor's tomb be guarded by a golden bone dragon with the physical strength of a 7th layer C of soul realm expert? Clearly, these golden bone dragons could also use dragon force. However, because of Black Blood's idiocy, they couldn't use it. There's actually dragon force. Seeing this scene, Yu Jianshun, who was originally full of confidence, immediately paled. The difference between having dragon force and not having dragon force was like heaven and earth. Without dragon force, even Yu Jianshun could exchange 1 or 2 moves. If they had dragon force, the strength of these two golden bone dragons would definitely explode by more than one level. Tianyang was in danger. Sword controlling art, sword splitting 10,000 shadows. Yu Jianshan roared. Sword shadows appeared one after another, ruthlessly attacking the golden bone dragons. Even if the golden bone dragons noticed and killed him, it was still better than Tianyang dying here. However, before the countless sword shadows arrived, the two golden bone dragons suddenly knelt down. The two dragon claws fell to the ground, and the entire dragon made the appearance of a human kneeling before Tianyang. Chapter 605. Bone Dragon. Kneeling. If this scene was told to others, 100 out of 100 people wouldn't believe it. But right now, it was right in front of him. Yu Jianshan only felt that his worldview was about to shatter. What happened to being the guardian of the dragon necropolis? What happened to treating outsiders as enemies and fighting to the death? Why were they kneeling in front of Tianyang like puppies and kittens, not moving at all? Yu Jianshan was beginning to suspect that the golden bone dragon in front of him was a fake. Sure enough, the divine dragon's dragon core is comparable to the true dragon race, which has the densest bloodline of the dragon race. Or perhaps it really is a divine dragon. Under the pressure of the bloodline, these bone dragons with dragon bloodline immediately kneeled. Tianyang chuckled. The divine dragon's dragon core was the core of a divine dragon's body. Moreover, Tianyang's divine dragon's dragon core also contained the divine dragon's blood essence. Just the divine dragon's blood essence alone was enough to suppress an ordinary dragon race. Now, with the addition of the divine dragon's dragon core, it was naturally like a fish in water, sweeping everything before it. All right, these two fellows are no longer a big problem. Tianyang smiled at Yu Jianshan. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan was extremely embarrassed. He didn't know what to do with the sword movie released, but he also didn't know how to take it back. However, Yu Jianshan was also extremely curious about Tianyang's miraculous methods, but he didn't say anything. To be able to make a bone dragon submit, this method must be incomparably powerful. Perhaps even his own brother wouldn't say anything, let alone him. Moreover, if the dragon race knew that the dragon necropolis guardian could kneel to a human, what awaited Tianyang would be endless pursuit. Yu Jianshan was only pure and righteous, but he wasn't stupid. Therefore, he very cleverly chose to keep his mouth shut. Scram to the side. Just as Yu Jianshan walked over, Tianyang frowned and said to the two bone dragons. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan was immediately on tenterhooks. These weren't the bone dragons of the myriad dragon bone path without intelligence. These fellows had intelligence and dragon force. If he was angered, there would be another great battle. If a weakling like him got involved in a fight between immortals, he would die. However, to Yu Jianshan's surprise, not only did the two bone dragons not fly into a rage after hearing Tianyang's furious roar, they even ran to another path obediently. In an instant, the entrance to the dragon monarch's tomb was wide open. If the dragon emperor knew about this, what would he think? All right, let's go in, Tianyang said. Then he stretched out his hand. His divine dragon body erupted with extreme strength and easily pushed open the heavy stone door. Then, the scene inside was reflected in the eyes of the two of them. The first to bear the brunt of the attack was the dragon coffin that was 1,000 feet long and made of hard golden wood that faced the door. The suffocating draconic force had erupted from the coffin. Yu Jianshan felt as if his nostrils had been blocked. His body trembled as if he was suffocating. He was only a spirit king, facing the dragon emperor. Even if it was the corpse of the ancient dragon emperor, it was still difficult for him to raise his head. However, in comparison, Tianyang was much calmer. The divine dragon body was not afraid of the draconic force. Tianyang was even a great emperor in his previous life. It would be strange for him to be in awe. At this moment, just as the two of them took another step into the tomb, the heavy stone door behind them suddenly closed. Boom! A terrifying sound rang out. Yu Jianshan felt a chill from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. His entire body felt cold. It was over. He had offended the coffin of the emperor. He was going to be buried with the dragon emperor who had been dead for who knew how long. However, Tianyong did not care at all. He sized up the coffin and praised. It's actually the extinct golden dragonwood. That's right, this is the ancient dragon tomb. It's normal to have golden dragonwood here. However, there's so much golden dragonwood here. If they were all made into golden dragon swords, then 10,000 swords would be released at the same time. Tianyong muttered to himself. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan's face turned bitter. Big brother, you're a real big brother. Can't you have a little sense of danger? Just now, the door closed without even a breeze. No matter how he thought about it, something was wrong. That's right. This is the good thing about the Dragon Clan. They especially like to collect treasures. They also like to be buried with themselves. Look at this armor. It's close to a high-grade spirit tool. If sold, it would be worth at least 20 billion low-grade spirit stones. Compared to what's here, your stuff is just junk. Tianyong laughed. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan's body stiffened. He did not dare to move. With a sad face, he only begged Tianyong to stop. He could already feel the smell of blood in the surrounding draconic force. Spirit stones? Take it. Pills? Take it. Spirit tools? Take it. Precious tools? Although I don't need to take them all. Tianyong acted as if nothing had happened. He happily opened up his spatial bag and took all the treasures in. It had to be said that the treasures in those vaults were just trash compared to the ones in the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Yu Jinshan had collected who knew how many vaults he had. At most, he had 100 to 200 billion low-grade spirit stones. But Tianyong had not even finished collecting them. He estimated that he had 700 to 800 billion low-grade spirit stones. Although most of them were things that could not be used directly, and the proportion of spirit stones was not large, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Moreover, this was a huge dragon. Just the spirit stones alone, Tianyong had more than 10 billion low-grade spirit stones. Reiki had not counted yet, but it should be more than that. In this tomb, the treasures placed in the surroundings are usually the worst. The real good stuff is in the coffin. Tianyong collected everything in the surroundings, then stroked his chin and walked to the side of the dragon coffin. At this time, the smell of blood in the surrounding dragon force had reached its peak. Yu Jinshan's face was also pale to the extreme. An undisguised, malevolent, killing intent erupted from the dragon force. Human brat, you've gone too far. A thunderous roar came out. Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows and sneered. You're really good at enduring. This daddy is about to rip your coffin open before you come out. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan was stunned. So it wasn't that Tianyong did not notice the change in the dragon force, but from the beginning, he knew of the Dragon Emperor's existence. So, from the beginning, you knew of this emperor? The voice became much softer, but the killing intent in it did not change. Even like this, you still didn't retreat and came to collect this emperor's treasures. As expected of a reptilian race, greedy and tyrannical, you only know how to seek your own destruction. That voice said. Hearing this, Yu Jinshan's face sank. A reptilian race? The black dragon from before said this. The black blood from before also said this. And this dragon emperor also said this. Raging flames of anger erupted from Yu Jinshan's heart. At this time, Tianyong walked to the side of the dragon coffin. His expression did not change as he stretched out his hands. The divine dragon's core was activated. Boom! The lid of the dragon coffin was opened by Tianyong. Chapter 606. Overturning it. Seeing this, Yu Jinshan was dumbfounded. Tianyong, on the other hand, smiled faintly, not minding it at all. As the heavenly sun lifted the lid of the 1,000-meter-long dragon coffin, an enraged voice exploded. Despicable human, do you know what you're doing? The dragon emperor roared. His tomb had been invaded by Tianyong and Yu Jinshan, which had already infuriated him. Tianyong had ignored him and continued to collect treasures, challenging his bottom line again and again. And now, Tianyong had actually ignored his dignity as the Dragon Emperor and overturned his coffin. This was intolerable. I'll let you know the price of humiliating an emperor, especially the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor roared. In the next moment, the endless dragon power in the air exploded. Driven by his killing intent, it turned into an extremely terrifying dragon power storm and swept towards Tianyang. Strands of dragon power were like blades as they revolved in the dragon power storm. Seeing this, Yu Jianshan was completely dumbfounded. That was an emperor, an existence countless times stronger than the Sun-Moon sect's old ancestor, the dragon emperor of ancient times. In the end, Tianyang did not care about his dignity at all and flipped his coffin lid. This was no different from touching a tiger's, but courting death. Despicable human, I'll kill you. The dragon emperor roared. In the next moment, the dragon power storm rushed towards Tianyang at an extremely terrifying speed. If this move were to be used, even an expert at the 8th level of Sea of Soul Realm would be directly killed. At this moment, Tianyang smiled faintly. The divine dragon's dragon core operated, and a dragon's might that was on par with the dragon emperor's, or even stronger, erupted. A mere remnant soul wants to use dragon power to deal with me? Aren't you dreaming? Tianyang smiled faintly. In the next moment, the divine dragon's might erupted, and the dragon power storm instantly, boom, exploded. The rolling dragon power scattered in all directions, but couldn't condense at all. It blew on Tianyang's body like a hurricane, but it had no effect. As for Tianyang, his expression was calm as he felt the dragon force hurricane. Although this hurricane was equally powerful, it was much weaker than the previous dragon force hurricane. Not to mention Tianyang, who had the divine dragon body. Even Yu Jianshan would be able to withstand it with ease. How was that possible? Why did this emperor's dragon power suddenly collapse? At this time, the dragon emperor was shocked and looked at Tianyang in disbelief. His dragon head, which seemed to still have a trace of vitality, flickered with astonishment. At this moment, Tianyang finally had the time to size up the dragon emperor. It was 1,000 feet long and 100 meters wide. Although it was lying in the coffin, its flesh and blood were still there. It looked extremely terrifying. One had to know that the dragon emperor had been dead for millions of years, but he still retained his appearance when he was alive. Just a glance at him made them feel as if the dragon emperor was looking down at them. Yu Jianshan's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. How is that possible? Yu Jianshan roared in disbelief. His flying sword flew out automatically. From the ancient times until now, there was still flesh and blood left. What kind of monster was this? However, Tianyang's expression was extremely calm. After the death of a heaven-reaching realm expert, their corpse can last for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. As a member of the Dragon Clan, and a Dragon Emperor at that, it's not hard to understand that his corpse can last for countless years in this golden dragon coffin. Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, the Dragon Emperor blinked his eyes and sneered. It seems that you're not just arrogant. Since you can make my dragon power collapse, you must not be an ordinary person. Either your strength far surpasses mine, or you can easily make my dragon power collapse. Either that, or your bloodline is far superior to mine. Otherwise, it's impossible. The Dragon Emperor snorted coldly. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled but didn't comment. If I'm not wrong, you have the bloodline of the divine dragon. The Dragon Emperor roared. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan's expression changed. Bloodline of the divine dragon? Humans only had the bloodline of the human clan, but Tianyang, whether it was his soul or his body, was completely human. Yet, he actually had the bloodline of the divine dragon. However, the Dragon Emperor couldn't be wrong. The bloodline seal from before couldn't be wrong either. Could it be that Tianyang was a dragon? Of course, Tianyang wasn't a dragon. In order to cultivate the 9 refined dragon body, he had some of the Dragon Clan's bloodline in his body. However, this bloodline was in the dragon core and had nothing to do with him. Of course, apart from his appearance as a human, Tianyang's physical strength was no weaker than that of the Dragon Clan. It was even stronger. He could also use some of the Dragon Clan's abilities. That was why the Dragon Emperor and Yu Jianshan had the wrong impression. I didn't expect that after hiding in this dragon tomb for so many years, I would actually meet a human with the bloodline of the divine dragon. The Dragon Emperor smiled malevolently. Then, his soul power suddenly rushed out and turned into a tall, middle-aged man. His eyes flickered with monstrous killing intent as he looked at Tianyang. Now, hand over the bloodline of the divine dragon, and I can still spare your life. Otherwise, don't blame this emperor for being merciless. The Dragon Emperor laughed loudly, as if everything was under his control. Hearing this, Tianyang's brows raised in disdain. A mere remnant soul dares to be so arrogant? If you want my divine dragon bloodline, come and get it yourself. Tianyang laughed disdainfully. Hearing this, the Dragon Emperor's face immediately darkened. Even if he was only a remnant soul now, and his strength was less than 10,000th of when he was alive, it wasn't something that this third-layer sea of soul realm cultivator could resist. The current him was roughly at the 8th-layer sea of soul realm. Crushing these two brats before him was as easy as pie. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since you insist on courting death, then this emperor can only fulfill your wish. The Dragon Emperor sneered. In the next moment, his body suddenly attacked. Light flickered in his hand as a dragon spear condensed and stabbed towards Yu Jianshan. In his opinion, only the 5th-layer sea of soul realm Yu Jianshan could threaten him. What does this have to do with me? Seeing the incoming dragon spear, Yu Jianshan cursed. His face suddenly turned serious. In the next moment, Zhen Yuan erupted. Imperial Sword Art activate. Imperial Sword Art, sword splitting 10,000 shadows. Yu Jianshan roared as countless sword shadows shot out towards the Dragon Emperor. At this moment, he had already forgotten that the enemy before him was the Dragon Emperor who made him tremble in fear before. Stubborn resistance. The Dragon Emperor laughed disdainfully. In the next moment, countless strands of dragon power condensed. Tianyang had a way to suppress his dragon power, but Yu Jianshan didn't. The dragon spear in his hand erupted with a dazzling radiance as the image of a huge dragon appeared. In the next moment, the Dragon Emperor roared. 1,000 dragon sky, piercing spear. In the next moment, countless strands of dragon power condensed and fused into the dragon spear. In the next moment, the spear stabbed out. Boom, boom, boom. Countless sword shadows were as weak as paper in front of this huge dragon power. It wasn't just the difference between the Dragon Emperor and the Sea of Soul Realm, but also the difference in martial skills. The Imperial Sword Art at the 3rd layer couldn't be compared to the Dragon Emperor's 1,000 dragon sky piercing spear, which had been tempered countless times. Damn it! Seeing the huge dragon spear about to attack, Yu Jianshan's face changed greatly. At this moment, he suddenly saw the sneering Tianyang beside him. He immediately rejoiced and roared, "Big brother, save me!" At this moment, Tianyang suddenly attacked. Chapter 607. Dragon King's Divine Fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Tianyang roared. While the Dragon Emperor was busy attacking Yu Jianshan, Tianyang made his move. If Tianyang was a second too early, the Dragon Emperor might react and defend himself. If Tianyang was a second too late, the Dragon Emperor's dragon spear would pierce through Yu Jianshan's head. Endless draconic force erupted as giant draconic dragons emerged. However, unlike the Dragon Emperor, Tianyang's myriad dragons slaughtering gods did not converge on his fist. Instead, all of them were unleashed. 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Hearing this, the Dragon Emperor's expression changed. You actually know this fist? However, I also want to know if the 10,000 dragons piercing spear or the 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods is stronger. The Dragon Emperor roared and threw Yu Jianshan aside. Holding the dragon spear, he attacked. Boom! Countless dragons collided with the 10,000 dragons piercing spear. Tianyang's expression darkened. The Dragon Emperor's move was much stronger than he had imagined. However, this was normal. After all, the Dragon Emperor was an expert from the ancient times. He had fought countless battles. His battle experience was much stronger than those he had fought before. Unfortunately, no matter how rich his battle experience was or how strong his battle instincts were, they were all trash in front of Sword Emperor Tianyang. This 10,000 dragons piercing spear is indeed strong. It seems to be the same as the Dragon King's divine fist. In other words, he has the same weakness as the Dragon King's divine fist. Tianyang kept attacking the Dragon Emperor with his dragon force. He was observing and analyzing the situation. The main drawback of the Dragon King divine fist was that its power was scattered. However, Tianyang's dragon force was very strong, which was why each dragon of the myriad dragons slaughtering God's dragon technique was so powerful. It was able to raise this low-grade heaven-class martial technique to mid-grade or even high-grade heaven class. However, the Dragon Emperor was just a remnant soul. It was impossible for him to have such power. The spear seemed to be condensed, but in fact it did not change. It was scattered. In other words, using one point to break the whole thing. Boom, 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 boom. A series of ear-shattering explosions rang out, and Tianyang's expression turned extremely grave. In the next moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. However, the Dragon Emperor didn't have it easy either. His remnant soul was constantly fluctuating, and he was forced to take several steps back, losing a great opportunity to pursue. However, this strength also made Tianyang puzzled. Why was this guy so much stronger than he had expected? Otherwise, he wouldn't have vomited blood. This brat is actually so strong. Not only do you know my weakness, you even know how to deal with it. The Dragon Emperor stared at Tianyang with a solemn expression as killing intent surged in his heart. At this time, Tianyang adjusted his body and stood still in midair. With the strength of the divine dragon body, he did not suffer any injuries in the confrontation just now. Although this Dragon Emperor has powerful battle experience and strength of the 8th level of Sea of Soul Realm, he can't display his full strength because of his soul fragment. Therefore, although I suffered a loss in the confrontation just now, this guy didn't gain any advantage either. Therefore, Tianyang faintly smiled as the martial spirit power in his Sea of Soul trembled rapidly. Sky Firmament Sword out. As soon as Sky Firmament Sword appeared, the Styx sword in Tianyang's hand erupted with a resplendent light. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying devouring power also erupted. Martial spirit talent, Sky Devouring Secret Technique. It was exactly the same as before. Everything in the surroundings, including the stones and the air, had their energy extracted by Tianyang. Even the 1,000-meter-long dragon corpse was the same. Endless dragon power gushed out of the Dragon Emperor's corpse and was absorbed by Tianyang. Tianyang's strength also began to improve crazily. Previously, Tianyang could break through from the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm to the peak of the 5th level by using the Sky Devouring Secret Technique. And now, he had the 1,000-meter-long dragon corpse as a huge energy source, as well as the divine dragon body's endurance. The speed at which Heavenly Sun's cultivation sword was even faster than before. Peak of the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of the 4th level of Sea of Soul Realm. 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. 6th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Sensing the sudden increase in Tianyang's aura, not only the Dragon Emperor, but even Yu Jinshan was dumbfounded. He was only at the peak of the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm before. How could he be so strong now? The gap between the peak of the 5th and 6th level of Sea of Soul Realm was as wide as a chasm. However, to Tianyang, the only difference between the two was the amount of energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy to break through. You brat, I didn't expect you to have such a powerful secret technique. The Dragon Emperor's face was gloomy, and an undisguised killing intent flashed through his eyes. In the next moment, he took a step forward with his dragon spear, shattering the space. 9 Revolution Heavenly Dragon Arts. Battle Dragon roars to the sky. The Dragon Emperor roared, and the dragon spear in his hand erupted with a dazzling radiance as he attacked again. Hearing the Dragon Emperor's roar, Tianyong suddenly reacted. No wonder the Dragon Emperor was so strong. It turned out that this guy was from the ancient era and knew cultivation methods. Compared to those with martial spirits but no cultivation methods, he was much stronger. Not bad, not bad. I finally met someone with cultivation methods. Divine Desolate Sky Spirit Art, come out. Tianyong laughed heartily. The Styx River sword in his hand was replaced by the Great Void Sword embryo, and he attacked. At this moment, his battle intent was raging. Sky Extreme Sword Arts, Fourth Sword Firmament. Tianyong slashed out, and the Great Void Sword embryo erupted with a dazzling radiance, fiercely colliding with the Dragon Emperor's battle dragon roaring to the heavens. Bang! The two figures suddenly stopped. Tianyong's expression didn't change, and the corner of his mouth carried a light smile. However, the Dragon Emperor's expression changed slightly, and he looked at Tianyong in disbelief. This brat, how did he suddenly become so strong? Battle dragon roaring to the heavens. The Dragon Emperor attacked again, and a dragon roar rang out, its might shaking the heavens. Tianyong wasn't afraid, and the Great Void Sword embryo in his hand slashed out a dazzling sword light. Bang, bang, bang. The Dragon Emperor was directly sent flying by Tianyong. The Great Void Sword embryo had been through battle and tempering, and it was almost a high-grade spirit artifact. In addition, Tianyong didn't just use Firmament earlier. The level 5 Spirit Fire Annihilation Heavenly Fire had been assisting. Bang! The Dragon Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood and heavily crashed into the tomb's wall. The dragon spear in his hand flickered, and it was obvious that the Dragon Emperor had been in this confrontation. Defeated, Yu Jianshun looked at Tianyong in shock. His big brother seemed to be too awesome. The dignified Dragon Emperor of the ancient era had been defeated by Tianyong. Ha ha! As expected of the human race's genius of this era, no wonder you could find this place. At this moment, the Dragon Emperor suddenly laughed and flew out from the wall. The vertical pupils of the Dragon Emperor were suddenly surrounded by demonic chi. Chapter 608. Demon King. Inlai. Hearing those two words, Yu Jianshun's face turned extremely pale. Tianyong also laughed loudly and landed on the ground. I knew there was something fishy about this guy. I didn't expect it to be true. It's just robbing a tomb, yet a Demon King-level existence has been lured out. What a joke. Tianyong held the Great Void Sword embryo and laughed loudly. Hearing that, Inlai, who had turned into the Dragon Emperor, stared at Tianyong angrily. You said you saw through it long ago? A Dragon Emperor who has been dead for millions of years, who even built the Dragon Necropolis, suddenly jumped out alive and kicking. Who would believe that? Tianyong chuckled. Hearing that, Inlai's face suddenly changed. He only knew that he had to lure these two people and then possess one of them to get out of the Dragon Necropolis and return to Heaven Continent to do evil. He didn't expect that there would be such a big flaw in his plan from the beginning. However, in the next moment, Inlai's face recovered and he smiled ferociously. So what if I saw through it long ago? Now you still have to die. In the next moment, Inlai's body suddenly changed. The outer shell of the Dragon Emperor collapsed and fell to the ground in pieces. Inlai's huge black body was also exposed to Tianyong and Yu Jianshun's sight. It wasn't very ugly, but it was extremely ferocious. His height was almost 10 feet. If he showed his true form, he would be more than 100 times bigger. His body was also 7 feet wide. His body was like an iron tower. His muscles looked as hard as obsidian. His face was human, but his skin was black and red. On his head, there was a long spiral horn like a bull's horn. His appearance and the demonic aura surrounding him were enough to prove that this so-called Dragon Emperor was a demon king in disguise. I originally wanted you to willingly offer your bodies, but I didn't expect that you would attack without saying a word. You wasted my efforts. However, it doesn't matter. I can still take over your body now. Inlai laughed loudly. In the next moment, he stomped on the ground and charged forward. The Berserk demons have spiral horns on their heads and bodies like iron towers. Their physical strength is great, and their demonic chi is extraordinary. They are only a few levels below the sky demons. I didn't expect that there would be a devil king from the berserk devil tribe in the earthly emperor's small world. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Enlai was stunned for a moment before he let out a hideous laugh. Looks like you do have some understanding of my otherworld celestial devil clan. However, it is precisely because you understand it too well that you must die. Devil crushes the heavens and earth. Enlai roared as peak level 8C of Soul Realm soul power exploded out. After removing the disguise, Enlai's strength had become even more powerful. However, Tianyang was not afraid at all. Stepping on the slaughter domain, the great void sword embryo in his hand emitted layers of bloody light. Styx River swordsmanship. The fourth move, Way of Azura. Boom! The blood-red Azura sword light ruthlessly collided with Enlai's fist. This time, space exploded and the world shook. Even this dragon monarch tomb couldn't withstand the two's battle and started to shake and crumble. Puff! Tianyang spat out a mouthful of blood as his body was sent flying. However, the Azura sword light had left a deep wound on Enlai's chest, so deep that his bones could be seen. You actually injured me? Seeing this, Enlai was stunned for a moment before he sneered and operated his demonic chi to repair the wound. Unfortunately, even if you injure me, you still have to die. Third level C of Soul Realm with such strength and means. You must be a heaven's pride of the human race. If I were to possess you, then with my Devil King Enlai's strength, I would be able to easily rise up and rule the entire Tianshao great world. At that time, the first to be destroyed would be the human race. Enlai laughed heartily. Hearing this, Tianyang flew up and sneered. Destroy the human race? You'll have to ask whether I agree or not. In the next moment, Tianyang took a step forward and used the void-treading secret art. His figure instantly disappeared from where he stood. On the great void sword embryo, black and white light burst out. Styx River swordsmanship. The fifth move, Way of Reincarnation. Child's play. Enlai laughed heartily and punched out. The terrifying power exclusive to mad demons erupted and swallowed Tianyang's way of reincarnation in an instant. However, seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. How could the way of reincarnation's life and death force be known by this mad demon? Melt destroy. Tianyang roared, and Jin Yuan erupted. Boundless life and death force circulated and corroded Enlai's fist directly. What? Seeing this, Enlai's expression changed greatly. He looked at his disappearing fist in disbelief. It was merely a third-level C of Soul Realm human, and one who relied on a secret art to reach the sixth level. He actually destroyed his fist, which had the battle strength of a peak 8th level C of Soul Realm. Damn guy, die for me. Enlai was enraged. He was thoroughly enraged. As the Devil King of the Sky Demons, in terms of strength, he was stronger than the Dragon Emperor. In the end, his fist was destroyed by Tianyang, this unbelievably young human, dominating the mountains and rivers. Enlai roared and punched out. The space shook, and the demonic chi fist shot out, ruthlessly attacking Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. The Zhen Yuan in his body erupted rapidly, and the Divine Dragon's dragon power condensed on the Great Void sword embryo in his hand. The Dragon Sword Theurgy could only be used after mastering the dragon power for a certain period of time. The Earth Dragon King Sword, Flood Dragon King Sword, Sky Dragon King Sword, and True Dragon King Sword were all like this. However, Tianyang had no other choice at this moment. He couldn't use the Great Void Emperor Fist, and Nether Spirit's Wrath was even more useless. Even if a Heaven Ascension Realm Devil King soul was crippled, it was impossible for him to kill it in one move. At that time, Enlai might even seize the opportunity to kill him. Therefore, on the Divine Dragon's Dragon Core, the 108 dragon patterns that had already transformed into Divine Dragon patterns erupted. The terrifying Divine Dragon's dragon power circulated and condensed on the great void sword embryo. I almost forgot that you still have the divine dragon's bloodline. When I take over your body, my strength will definitely increase greatly. Who knows? I might even be able to become the demon emperor. Inlai chuckled. In the next moment, the fist print expanded rapidly and charged toward Tianyang at an even faster speed. Dragon Sword Theurgy, Divine Dragon King Sword. Tianyang gritted his teeth and forcibly controlled the divine dragon's dragon power that he had yet to fully control, condensing it on the great void sword embryo. Boom! The great void sword embryo suddenly emitted a sword light that was tens of thousands of feet long. The divine dragon's dragon power converged, forming the appearance of the divine dragon king sword. And an imposing aura that could surpass heaven and earth also erupted from Tianyang's body. Today, I'll use you as a sacrifice to break through the divine dragon body. Tianyang laughed loudly, and the divine dragon king's sword in his hand erupted with tens of thousands of feet of light. Seeing this, Inlai's expression changed greatly. Sea of Soul Realm, 7th level. At this critical moment, Tianyang broke through from the 3rd level of the Sea of Soul Realm to the 4th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Therefore, the cultivation brought by the heaven-devouring secret art also forcibly reached the 7th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Inlai panicked. For the first time, he felt the danger of death. Damn it! I don't believe that a human brat can really kill me. Demon King Inlai. Inlai roared loudly. In the next moment, the mad demon body was released. Inlai's face immediately turned sinister, and his eyes were blood red. Berserk! Mad demon dominates the sky. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled indifferently and slashed out with the divine dragon king sword. Chapter 609. Boom, 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 boom. Two terrifying attacks collided. The entire dragon emperor tomb collapsed. Yu Jinshan's expression changed greatly as he hastily soared into the sky. At this moment, the two golden bone dragons outside the door suddenly charged in. F*CK. Seeing these two golden bone dragons, Yu Jinshan's expression changed greatly. Tianyang was already having a hard time dealing with Inlai. If these two golden bone dragons interfered as well, wouldn't he be finished? However, before Yu Jinshan could do anything to stop these two golden bone dragons, they saw Demon King Inlai and Tianyang in the midst of a fierce battle. His empty eyes burned with raging flames of anger. Demon, race, die! A hoarse and severely distorted voice came out from the golden bone dragons' mouths. In the next instant, the two golden bone dragons charged over. Damn it, this Inlai is too strong. When he was alive, he was probably not much weaker than the Demon Emperor. Tianyang controlled the Void Sword embryo to crazily meet mad Demon Tyrant's attacks. However, Inlai was a Demon King after all. How could he be so easily dealt with? Even if Tianyang's strength had reached the 7th layer of Sea of Soul Realm, Inlai had also reached the 9th layer of Sea of Soul Realm. He was only a step away from the Heaven Ascension Realm. Thus, not only was Tianyang unable to close the gap in cultivation, he was instead being pulled apart by Inlai. This demon race brat wants to maintain his 9th layer of Sea of Soul Realm state. He'll definitely consume a lot of energy. As long as he can delay for a few more minutes, he'll exhaust himself to death. But now, it won't be so easy to delay him. Tianyang's expression was unsightly. He repeatedly waved the void sword embryo in his hand, blocking mad Demon Tyrant's attacks. He also casually attacked a few times. However, Inlai was not to be trifled with. He easily repelled Tianyang's attacks. The gap between the 9th and 7th layers of Sea of Soul Realm was even greater than the gap between the peak of 8th and 6th layers of Sea of Soul Realm. I originally planned to kill you without suffering any injuries, but now I have no choice but to sacrifice my demon soul. Fortunately, as long as I possess you and cultivate bitterly for a few hundred years, I'll still be able to become the Demon Emperor and occupy the Tianshao Great World. Inlai laughed heartily. In the next moment, a strange light flashed. Enli's body once again. Mad demon tyrant attacked, once again. Boom! Tianyang's firmament sword couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. Even the wall of fire formed by the annihilation heavenly flames was easily shattered. Tianyang himself was sent flying by this punch. Tianyang spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. Streams of blood flowed down the great void, sword embryo in his hand. This Enli was too. He was ruthlessness to others, to himself. Devil, devils. Demon soul, devil. Demon soul. The body's the realm, as demon's body. However, at this moment, he had forcefully unleashed it. Tianyang had also encountered the greatest crisis of his life. Ha! Although I don't know your name, I don't need to know. Seeing Tianyang spurt blood and his aura weaken, Enli laughed heartily. He descended and walked in front of Tianyang. Looking at Tianyang's body, a trace of greed emerged on Enli's face. Not bad. The body of a human genius is indeed wonderful. If I can control this body, I'll definitely be able to break through the Demon Emperor. At that time, I'll accept my short life. Enli laughed heartily. Breaking through the Demon Emperor would definitely increase his lifespan. Short life? No matter how short it was, it could be made up for. As for Tianyang, his eyes were blood red as he looked at Enli with incomparable fury. In his soul ocean, the second 10,000 swords returned to origin stirred. If he really couldn't handle it, he would explode. With Shantian Wuzuan's strength, he could definitely easily put Enli to death. Things might change if we delay. I won't waste words. Now die for me. Enli looked at Tianyang's furious gaze, and his heart trembled. Demonic light gathered in his hand, and he was just about to attack Tianyang when a hoarse roar came from the side. Demon die! At this moment, 2 golden bone dragons rushed over, the soul flames in their eyes burning fiercely as they attacked Enli. Golden dragon claws smashed towards Enli. The physical strength of a 7th level sea of soul realm completely erupted. Where did this beast come from? Enli was furious. The demonic light that originally wanted to kill Tianyang changed direction and fiercely bombarded the golden bone dragon's body. Bang! The golden bone dragon's chest directly caved in, but its pair of dragon claws still firmly grasped Enli's arm. The other golden bone dragon also rushed over. Demon die! The golden bone dragon roared. In its soul fire without intelligence, there was only one belief: destroy the demon in front of it. Courting death. Enli was thoroughly enraged. He didn't care about Tianyang and directly punched out, sending one of the golden bone dragons flying. In the next moment, 9th level sea of soul realm demonic chi was released, sending another flying. Demon, die! Even if it was sent flying and its bones were scattered, the golden bone dragon still flew back, its pair of dragon claws fiercely slapping Enli's body. In their settings, killing demons was number 1, and guarding the dragon acropolis was number 2. You want to die? I'll fulfill your wish. Enli was furious. At this moment, the golden bone dragon's body suddenly fluctuated unsteadily, and a trace of a smile actually appeared on its skeletal head. Its soul fire had already burned to the limit. In the next moment, the golden bone dragon's entire body suddenly exploded. Demon die! Bang! A resplendent light flashed, and the golden bone dragon turned into a ball of light, exploding. Tianyang was dumbfounded, and so was Yu Jinshin. The golden bone dragon was merely created by humans, but because of the demon in front of it, it paid with its own life. Could it be that in ancient times, these golden bone dragons also came to resist the demon race, but because the Dragon Emperor had fallen, they were here? Or could it be that they knew that Enli was inside the Dragon Emperor's body, so they let the golden bone dragons guard this place? Tianyang was shaken, and tears streamed down Yu Jinshin's face. Even if the golden bone dragon didn't have life, they were still moved. Damned beast. Enli suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The self-destruction of a 7th-level sea of Soul Realm also had a considerable effect on him. At this moment, another pair of dragon claws also landed on his body. Demon Die Bang! Another golden bone dragon self-destructed. Enlai's body was completely confined in place, and blood wildly spurted out from his mouth. Seeing this scene, Tianyang's eyes were filled with tears, but he still grasped the opportunity. The golden bone dragon wouldn't die in vain. Now, Tianyang's face was malevolent as he roared. Who cared about the weakness? Who cared about the backlash? Right now, Tianyang only wanted to kill Enlai, this beast. Tianji Sword Emperor's Soul, open. Sky Extreme Sword Arts, 4th Sword, Firmament. Beast, die for your father. Tianyang's face was malevolent as he brandished his sword like a madman. With a stab, the firmament was destroyed. Wah! Enlai clearly didn't expect Tianyang to erupt with such power at this moment. He raised his head in disbelief, but at this moment, Tianyang's sword had already pierced through his forehead. That incomparably sharp sword light had also shredded his devil soul. Chapter 610. The space between his eyebrows had been pierced, and his demonic soul had been shattered. Enlai's face was filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe that the golden bone dragon would self-destruct without any regard for its own safety. Moreover, he couldn't believe that Tianyang's sword was so powerful. However, he didn't know that the space between his eyebrows had been pierced, but his demonic soul had been shattered. Even the Demon Emperor wouldn't be able to save him, unless a peerless, almighty expert with the ability to reverse time intervened. However, such an almighty expert wouldn't intervene for the sake of a demon king. Secondly, there wasn't one here. The Demon Emperor was equivalent to the top of the monarchs of the Tian Shao continent. He couldn't do it, martial venerables couldn't do it, and cultivators above martial venerables couldn't do it either. After all, reversing time wasn't the power of a human, but of a saint, a god. I finally killed that guy. Tianyang was gasping for breath. His face was extremely pale. He hadn't been injured to this extent when Enlai had injured him. Later on, he had risked the danger of a backlash and used his spiritual strength. Fortunately, Tianyang's strength had increased, so he could use more spiritual strength. Otherwise, it wouldn't be just his spiritual strength that had been exhausted. It would be his spiritual strength that had caused his body to collapse. Big Brother is amazing. At this time, Yu Jinshin flew over and looked at the pale Tianyang. If it weren't for his divine dragon body, he wouldn't have been able to fly. His face flashed with worry. Afterwards, he opened his spatial bag and took out a pure white pill. This is my private stash. Big Brother, you don't have the strength to open your spatial bag, so I gave it to you. You don't need to return it. Yu Jinshin said worriedly. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and swallowed the pill without any hesitation. Immediately, Tianyang's complexion improved a lot. However, he was still heavily injured. Fortunately, Tianyang now had the strength to take out his spatial bag. From small grade 3 pills to large grade 5 pills, Tianyang took out healing pills one after another. A portion of them were taken by Yu Jinshin, but most of them were taken by Yu Jinshin. In other words, they belonged to Tianyang. At the very least, the grade 5 spirit birth pill wasn't taken by Yu Jinshin. After Tianyang took them out, he didn't care and swallowed them all. He then sat cross-legged and began refining them. As for Yu Jinshin's eyes, he was dumbfounded. With this level of pill storage, let alone being strong, even if one's strength wasn't strong enough, one could still rely on pills to grind the opponent to death. This was simply terrifying. Tianyang's success. Yu Jinshin sighed. In the beginning, he had been extremely terrified of the two golden bone dragons, but after witnessing their fates, he only felt pity. After all, no matter how malevolent and terrifying those two dragons were, they still sacrificed themselves in the end. The two dragons self-detonated, leaving not even a single fragment behind to bury Tianyang and Yu Jinshin. All of it turned into energy to trap Enlai. If not for that, Tianyang wouldn't have been able to kill Enlai even with his soul power. If he could, he would have done so long ago. After a few hours, Tianyang finally woke up from his cultivation state. The heaven-devouring secret technique's power dissipated, and Tianyang's cultivation returned to the fourth layer of the Sea of Soul Realm. Moreover, through this battle, it couldn't be any more stable. As for his injuries, it was naturally impossible for him to recover from them so quickly. Of course, Tianyang's battle strength had more or less recovered by now. As long as he didn't meet an opponent on the level of the dragons, he could still protect himself. I've finally recovered. This trip to the Dragon Necropolis was truly full of twists and turns. Tianyang sighed. Hearing this, Yu Jianchen nodded in agreement. First, He Shui controlled the bone dragons of the myriad dragon bone path to attack, almost taking their lives. If not for Tianyang's timely eruption, they would have been done for. Afterwards, He Shui fled, and Tianyang chased after him for a long time. Finally, Tianyang obtained the ancient dragon transformation pond and successfully broke through to the divine dragon body. Next, they explored the Dragon Emperor's tomb. First, they were frightened by the dragons. Then, they were intimidated by the Dragon Emperor Lai had transformed into. They even fought. Finally, the Dragon Emperor transformed into Lai and fought again. It was extremely bitter. Although the harvest was plentiful, Yu Jianchen would have rather not obtained anything than come here again. However, these two golden bone dragons, Tianyang glanced at the ruins of the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Tianyang couldn't be bothered with the real Dragon Emperor in the 1,000-meter-long dragon coffin, but Tianyang had no choice but to pay attention to the golden bone dragon. After all, if not for them, Tianyang would have died in Lai's hands. Although the golden bone dragon had no life and was already dead, Tianyang still had to pay it back. They came to protect the Dragon Necropolis. Then, after I leave, I'll lay down a formation to protect the Dragon Necropolis. Then, with the bloodline seal, the Dragon Necropolis will be impregnable. After that, I'll restore the barrier and no one will know about this place anymore. Tianyang said. Hearing this, Yu Jianchen nodded. Some people thought that Tianyang's actions were completely unrewarding. The golden bone dragon was already dead and had no life. Why would he do so much for it? Moreover, the Dragon Necropolis was already empty. There was no benefit in protecting it. However, those who said this definitely hadn't experienced it. The golden bone dragon's self-destruction had saved Tianyang's life. No matter how Tianyang repaid it, it was worth it. Afterwards, Tianyang and Yu Jianchen tidied up the Dragon Emperor's tomb. They collected the treasures in the 1,000-meter-long dragon coffin and restored it to its original state. From then on, no one else entered the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Other than almost dying a few times this time, we really made a big profit. Walking on the ancient path of the Dragon Necropolis, Yu Jianchen laughed. As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. Tianyang and Yu Jianchen's harvest in the Dragon Necropolis was also extraordinary. Previously, Yu Jianchen gave Tianyang treasures worth 100 billion low-grade spirit stones on the grounds that Tianyang had saved his life. But when they arrived at the Dragon Emperor's tomb, Tianyang gave Yu Jianchen a third of the treasures without any explanation. Don't look down on this third. The value of this third was only higher than the 100 billion low-grade spirit stones from before. Yu Jianchen wanted to decline, but Tianyang's attitude was firm. In the end, Yu Jianchen could only leave the matter unsettled. As for Tianyang's harvest, it was naturally even richer. His harvest was worth 1 trillion low-grade spirit stones at the very least. It was comparable to the wealth of second-rate power. If all of it was used for the development of the Star Sword sect, the Star Sword sect would be at the level of the Heavenly Demon Cult at the very least. Moreover, Tianyang had obtained a few existences that could evolve the Void Sword embryo in the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Chapter 611. Although the Dragon Necropolis was huge, Tianyang and Yu Yuhan were already familiar with it, so they left easily. When they passed by the 10,000 Dragon Bone Path, they sighed with emotion. Their adventure in the Dragon Necropolis started from here. All right, there's no danger now. You can come out, Tianyang said as he took out the Heavenly Pagoda. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan and the others jumped out. Their faces were full of energy, but Ling Yuhan's mood was a little gloomy. In the Heavenly Pagoda, They could see everything that Tianyang went through, except for the dragon transformation pool. In other words, they had seen all the battles and had experienced the thrill of the heavenly sun with their own eyes. Naturally, they knew that Tianyang had a hard time fighting. It could be said that although they had a lot of people, they were completely useless in a battle of that level. "Master, I'm useless," Ling Yuhan said in shame. She thought that she could help Tianyang after breaking through to the Sea of Soul Realm. But she didn't expect that as Tianyang broke through, Tianyang's enemies would become stronger. Although she also broke through, she still couldn't keep up with Tianyang's pace. "Silly girl, what are you talking about?" Tianyang smiled gently and patted Ling Yuhan's head. "I didn't bring you along because you can help me kill the enemies. As long as you follow me, it's enough," Tianyang said with a smile. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded, feeling touched. Meanwhile, the surrounding spectators all expressed their curses. "Right, big brother, I can sense that there's not only the Black Dragon Clan's team outside. There's also a lot of people. I just took a look at the mortal ranking. You're no longer there, but there's someone outside who's ranked 18th. At this moment, Yu Jianshan walked over and interrupted Tianyang and Yu Yuhan. Hearing this, Tianyang's brows twitched. Ling Yuhan also tactfully walked away. "Tell me, how many people are there?" Tianyang said. Hearing that, Yu Jianshan nodded. "Only about 20 people. The main reason is that they can't open the bloodline seal, and the dragon death aura in the surroundings hasn't been purified by Big Brother. That's why many people couldn't withstand the dragon's death aura and left. However, those who stayed behind all had extraordinary strength. 3 of them are Spirit King Realm Warriors. 5 are peak level 4th Sea of Souls Realm Warriors. 7 are at the 4th Sea of Souls Realm, and the rest are at the 3rd Sea of Souls Realm," Yu Jianshan said. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. 3 Spirit Kings, 12 4th level Sea of Soul Realm Warriors, and some 3rd level Sea of Soul Realm Warriors? If it had been in the past, Tianyang would have been wary of this level of combat power. After all, under normal circumstances, he would not reveal his trump card, the heaven-devouring secret skill. However, in the Dragon Necropolis, Tianyang had obtained the divine dragon body and broken through to the 4th Sea of Souls Realm. Ordinary Spirit Kings could be easily killed by him. Although they were all geniuses, what was the difference? Sky Firmament's sword had swallowed Een Lai's demonic chi and was just a little bit away from breaking through to the heaven tier. So it's like this. That's fine. Let's see their performance later and decide whether they will die or not, Tianyang said, then walked out. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan also nodded. He wasn't the slightest bit moved by Tianyang's words. If these people were really mentally retarded to a certain level, then it wouldn't matter even if they died. In any case, if mentally retarded people didn't die in their hands in this small world, they would die in the hands of others sooner or later. As for Sun Xing and the rest, they were completely subdued by Tianyang's domineering words. Let's see their performance and decide whether they will die or not. That was 3 Spirit Kings, 12 4th level Sea of Souls Realm Warriors, and several 3rd level Sea of Souls Realm Warriors. If it were someone else who said these words, they would absolutely ridicule them. However, it was Tianyang who said these words. They only felt their blood boiling. Outside the dragon, 2 numerous figures stood at the entrance of the dragon tomb, their eyes flickering with greed as they looked at the tightly shut door. "Young master, you said that the person inside is Sword King Tianyang. Is that true?" A seemingly thin and weak man said. Hearing this, a youth beside him coldly snorted, and a surging killing intent flashed. According to these black dragons, the 2 people who rushed in, one is Yu Jianshan, and the other, according to the description, is definitely Tianyang. This Tianyang is being targeted by Vice Leader Bai. He actually didn't run, and even dared to be impudent in the small world. The youth coldly snorted. Hearing this, the malicious-looking man chuckled. The ignorant are fearless. In any case, this Sword King Tianyang will only become a stepping stone for Young Master in the end. Our heavenly demon cult's Young Master Jiang is the true main character of this martial arts competition. The malicious-looking man flattered. Hearing this, young Master Jiang clearly enjoyed it, and his eyes narrowed. Hearing this, Black Dragon's eyes widened. Heavenly Demon Cult? Young Master Jiang? Wasn't that the 13th on the mortal ranking Killer King Jiang Yuchen? This Jiang Yuchen had the strength of peak 5th level C of Soul Realm. If Yu Jianshan heard this, he would definitely be incomparably astonished. Previously, he hadn't noticed Jiang Yuchen. From this, it could be seen how formidable Jiang Yuchen's concealment technique was. Of course, no matter how formidable it was, Tianyang didn't care. He had even killed Devil King Yinlai, who had the strength of a heaven-reaching emperor. Why would he fear this so-called Killer King Jiang Yuchen? Boom! At this moment, a loud sound suddenly erupted from the entrance of the Dragon Tomb. The huge and heavy stone door was suddenly opened. Several figures suddenly appeared behind the door. They've come out. Jiang Yuchen's eyes flashed with a blood-red light as he growled. The greed in his eyes couldn't be concealed. This was the ancient Dragon Tomb. One didn't need to think to know how abundant the treasures inside were. Even if Tianyang couldn't obtain all of them, even a tenth of them would be enough to fill Jiang Yuchen's pockets to the brim. A blood-red longsword appeared in Jiang Yuchen's hand. His eyes were filled with berserk, killing intent. At this moment, Yu Jianshan was stunned. His eyes narrowed. I miscalculated. I didn't think that heavenly demon cult's Jiang Yuchen would be here. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his brows and looked at the person with the biggest reaction. He wasn't tall, only about 7 meters. He wore the symbolic black robes of the heavenly demon cult. The blood-red longsword in his hand was conservatively estimated to be a mid-grade spirit weapon. Tianyang could clearly sense a terrifying aura from Jiang Yuchen's body. It was as if he would attack in the next moment and slaughter everyone. Tianyang had only seen this aura from those fugitives. Tianyang's eyes narrowed. At this moment, Jiang Yuchen looked at Tianyang's group and smiled coldly. You must be Tianyang's group. Since that's the case, then. Chapter 6:12. Hand over Big Brother, and hand over the treasures we obtained from the Dragon Tomb. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan sneered, and the flying sword behind him flew out. Defensive sword art activate. The aura of a 5th layer C of Soul Realm exploded out, and a sharp aura pointed at this group of people. You're dreaming. Hearing this, the person who spoke before had an unsightly expression, and the face of the person beside him sank. He walked out. Yu Jianshan, our strength might not be as good as yours, but 2 fists can't fight 4 hands. If we attack together, you won't be able to protect Tianyang. I think you're following Tianyang because of his strength and the treasures in the Dragon Tomb. However, Tianyang is about to die at our hands. Why don't you join us now? When we get the treasures in Tianyang's hands, you'll definitely get a share. That person said. Yu Jianshan came from a first-rate power, the defensive sword sect, which was not inferior to the Heavenly Yin Mountain. Even Jiang Yuchen didn't dare to lightly offend Yu Jianshan. Thus, that person said this. Otherwise, they would have attacked long ago. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan sneered. Rank 18, Deng Qi? Hearing this, that person stared blankly for a moment before nodding. That's right, it's me. What? You've changed your mind and want to abandon the dark and join the light? Abandon your ass. Yu Jianshan roared and activated his defensive sword art. The flying sword in his hand suddenly flew out, and his 5th layer C of Soul Realm Zhen Yuan surged. In the next moment, countless sword images were released. Defensive sword art, sword splitting 10,000 shadows. In the next moment, countless sword images ruthlessly attacked Deng Qi. Damn it! Seeing this, Deng Qi was furious. He didn't think that Yu Jianshan would suddenly attack without saying anything. 5th layer C of Soul Realm Zhen Yuan rapidly surged within his body as he punched. High-grade Earth Tier martial skill, shattering mountains and rivers. Deng Qi roared, and in the next moment, a huge palm print condensed and ruthlessly attacked Yu Jianshan's sword, splitting 10,000 shadows. Boom! Boom! Terrifying explosions rang out one after another. Yu Jianshan's expression didn't change as he watched Deng Qi attack. His soul force and Jin Yuan surged out and poured into the countless sword shadows. As for Deng Qi, he struck out in a panic. Although his palm strike was powerful, it was still inferior to Yu Jianxun's sword splits. Soon, he was at a disadvantage. Yu Jianxun, are you really going to go to the Tianyang? Falling into a disadvantageous position, Deng Qi only felt waves of humiliation. Although Yu Jianxun was stronger than him, it wasn't by much. He was ranked 18th on the mortal ranking. Even in the entire earthly Emperor Minor world, he was considered one of the best. But in the end, he had been defeated so easily by Yu Jianxun. This made him feel incomparably ashamed and angry. Stubborn? You're the ones courting death. Yu Jianxun sneered and used his imperial sword technique to break through Deng Qi's sword, splitting 10,000 shadows. Then he charged forward. Deng Qi, that trash. Seeing this, Jiang Yuqin's expression turned unsightly. Zhen Yuan erupted from his body as he slashed out with his blood-colored longsword. Invisibility, kill. A ghostly sword light shot out, carrying the surging Zhen Yuan of a peak 5th layer sea of Soul Realm. Only with the assistance of Deng Qi's shattering mountains and rivers did it manage to block Yu Jianxun's sword control technique. However, although it was blocked, Jiang Yuqin was incomparably shocked. He knew that Yu Jianxun was the head disciple of the Imperial Sword Sect. But when did the head disciple of the Imperial Sword Sect become so strong? Didn't this group of people only know Imperial Sword technique and nothing else? Why was this guy clearly not at peak 5th layer sea of Soul Realm, yet able to erupt with such power? Nonsense. If he hadn't improved after going through so many life and death battles, then Yu Jianxun might as well find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Ha ha! With your weak strength, you want to be impudent in front of Big Brother? Yu Jianxun, don't even need to use my hands to kill you. Yu Jianxun laughed heartily. Hearing this, everyone was furious. You motherf asterisk her, your Imperial Sword technique? Why the hell use your hands? Damn guy, I don't believe that you're really that strong. A person roared. In the next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared from where he stood, and a sharp palm wind attacked. High-grade Earth-tier martial skill, tearing Gale Claw. Seeing this, Yu Jianxun's expression didn't change. With a faint smile, he used the Imperial Sword technique and directly sent that palm flying. Even that palm was pierced through by the sword shadow. That person's face immediately paled, and he hastily retreated a few steps to avoid the danger of being pierced through by Yu Jianxun. However, seeing this scene, the faces of the others suddenly became unsightly. They hadn't thought that Yu Jianxun, who was usually calm, would erupt with such power today. Yu Jianxun, not bad, not bad. I, Jiang Yuqin, can promise that if you join my heavenly demon cult, you'll immediately receive the treatment of a core disciple. In the future, when I become the sect master of the heavenly demon cult, you can also become the vice sect master. Of course, as the first disciple of the Imperial Sword Sect, you don't have to join the heavenly demon cult. However, if you hand over Tianyang behind you, then my words will still count even if you're not in the heavenly demon cult. Jiang Yuqin laughed. Hearing this, Sun Xing's expression changed slightly. A core disciple now, a future vice sect master? Even if he wasn't in the heavenly demon cult, he could still receive such treatment? In order to kill Tianyang, this Jiang Yuqin was really sparing no expense. Vice sect master? Hearing this, Yu Jianxun was stunned. He didn't think that Jiang Yuqin would actually give such a huge price. However, Yu Jianxun still shook his head. The temptation isn't small, but it's a pity that it's useless against me. If you want to die, then all of you can get over here. Yu Jianxun laughed. Hearing this, Jiang Yuqin's expression immediately became unsightly. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Even if you're strong, two fists can't fight four hands. With so many of us surrounding you, you'll definitely die. Men, go. Kill him. Jiang Yuqin roared. In the next moment, his body shot out and attacked Yu Jianxun. The rest of the people also made their moves. One after another, powerful attacks shot towards Yu Jianxun. They didn't put Tianyang's group in their eyes. In their eyes, The only threat here was the Spirit King Yu Jianshin. Oomph. Imperial Sword Technique, 10,000 Swords Attack. Yu Jianshin coldly snorted and used the Imperial Sword Technique. Countless sword shadows condensed into solid existences and shot out. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying sounds rang out as Yu Jianshin's attacks were annihilated again and again. The dozen people were like a hot knife through butter as they ruthlessly attacked Yu Jianshin. Seeing this, Yu Jianshin's expression changed greatly. He was completely flustered. "Big brother, save me." Hearing this, Jiang Yuqian sneered. Tianyang? Tianyang can't even protect himself. How can he save you? Boom! A terrifying dragon force burst out and blasted Jiang Yuqian away. In the next moment, countless dragons rushed out and blasted the dozen or so people away along with their attacks. Bones broke one after another and blood spurted out. In just an instant, several people were heavily injured. Boom! The dozen people crashed into the mountain wall at the same time. Blood spurted out of their mouths as they looked in disbelief at the direction where the dragons came from. Over there, a smiling young man withdrew his fist. "If you're not strong enough, don't try to act cool." Chapter 613. If you don't have the strength, don't try to act cool. Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Yu Jianshin immediately revealed an ashamed expression. How could his elder brother's strength be compared to his? He was almost done for. However, it was only almost. With Tianyang here, Yu Jianshin couldn't die no matter what. Cough, cough. How is this possible? How can a fourth layer sea of Soul Realm have such strength? At this moment, Jiang Yuqian suddenly crawled up and forcefully wiped away the blood flowing from the corner of his mouth as he roared. He had always thought that after breaking through to the peak of fifth layer sea of Soul Realm, he would be invincible in the earthly Emperor Small World. Even if it was the Tyrannosaurus King or the Scarlet Demon King, he would be able to fight them. As for Tianyang, this short-lived Sword King, he naturally looked down on him. He even thought of easily killing Tianyang and then going to vice sect leader to receive a reward. In a heavenly demon cult, the sect leader had already issued the most frightening kill order. It was aimed at Tianyang. The kill order was of an extremely high level, so the reward was naturally enormous. Jiang Yuqian naturally also greatly desired it. If he obtained that reward, it was even possible for him to break through to the sixth layer of Sea of Soul Realm before he was 100 years old. However, the strength that Tianyang had just displayed had mercilessly shattered his fantasies. This strength was practically enough to beat him up and trample everyone present under his feet. He must have used some secret technique. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to have this kind of strength. Jiang Yuqian was like a madman as he roared. In the next moment, he operated his Zhen Yuan and split it into layers of phantoms that charged out. Half-step heaven tier martial skill, extreme soul destruction fist. Countless black Zhen Yuan condensed and transformed into a fist imprint that carried layers of soul-shaking power. It broke through space and charged towards Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's brows raised. The heavenly demon cult was worthy of being a peak force. This Jiang Yuqian was truly a young master-level figure. He could even use a half-step heaven tier martial skill. In other words, if he killed Jiang Yuqian, the heavenly demon cult would definitely suffer huge losses and be incomparably furious. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up. A half-step heaven rank martial skill was powerful, but in front of him, what could a half-step heaven rank martial skill do? Dragon King's divine fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Tianyang roared. In the next moment, the power of the mystical dragon gathered, and a huge dragon that was far more powerful than the previous countless dragons rushed out and collided with the Tying soul extinguishing fist. The Dragon King divine fist was a heaven tier martial skill. Bang! As countless dragons rushed out, the mysterious fist mark with incomparable power collapsed in an instant. Fragments of energy flew out and landed on the ground. They corroded the ground and created a large hole. As for the soul shock force, It instantly erupted and transformed into invisible blades that ruthlessly slashed towards Tianyang. Ha ha, Tianyang. So what if this move of yours is powerful? You won't be able to block my attack from behind. Vice Sect Leader Bai's reward is mine. Jiang Yuqin laughed heartily. At this moment, the invisible soul blade also pierced between Tianyang's brows. Tianyang's face suddenly twisted. His face was extremely pale, and he retreated a few steps. The Tying Soul Extinguishing Fist's greatest killing move is this soul attack. I originally thought that Zhen Yuan would be able to destroy you, but you actually managed to force out this move. Among the countless geniuses of the Central Region, you can be considered a figure. It's a pity that this Tying Soul Extinguishing Fist soul attack, even if a Spirit King cultivator is careless, they can only die with regret, not to mention a kid like you who hasn't even reached the Spirit King realm. Jiang Yuqin laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. Spirit King? 5th C of Soul Realm? Of course, I'm only at the peak of the 5th C of Soul Realm. No matter how strong this half-step heaven rank martial skill is, it can't kill a 6th C of Soul Realm. A weakling will always be a weakling. You can't even figure this out. Jiang Yuqin sneered. However, in the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. Tianyang, whose face was twisted and pale and was about to die, actually had the strength to speak. Jiang Yuqin raised his head. At this moment, Tianyang's angry curses were heard. F***CK. What a waste of effort. In the next moment, a huge iron fist bombarded Jiang Yuqin's face. Boom! Jiang Yuqin's entire face caved in, and blood spurted out of his mouth. He crashed through several mountains in succession before stopping. His aura was extremely weak, and his face was filled with disbelief. Tianyang, who was about to die from the collapse of his soul, how could he still have such powerful strength? Tying Emperor's fist. Tianyang would not give Jiang Yuqin time to think. His figure flashed, and the secret art of void treading erupted. An iron fist crossed the void and bombarded Jiang Yuqin's body. Oh no! Upper Earth class movement skill, void escape. Jiang Yuqin's expression changed drastically. He did not have time to think about Tianyang's strength. He hurriedly used his movement skill and blended into the space around him. Only then did he dodge the attack. However, Tianyang himself had already arrived at this place. Void escape? A very powerful movement skill. It's a pity that you haven't mastered it yet. Tianyang sneered and punched out, bombarding an empty space. Boom! A figure spitting out blood was immediately sent flying. All the bones in his body were shattered. His entire body was crippled by Tianyang's punch. Big brother, you're so strong. At this moment, Yu Jinshin saw this scene from afar and exclaimed in shock. At this moment, Tianyang followed up with another punch. Tying Emperor's fist. The heaven-class martial skill from the Tying Emperor was unleashed. Boom! Jiang Yuqin's figure was sent flying again. His dantian was completely destroyed. Countless Zhen Yuan flowed out crazily from his 7 orifices. Sensing this scene, Jiang Yuqin went crazy. My cultivation base. My Zhen Yuan. In the next moment, a furious killing intent erupted from Jiang Yuqin's eyes. Damn it. Vice Leader Bai, lend me an arm. You still have a talisman? TSK. I was almost tricked. At this moment, Tianyang looked at the talisman in his hand in surprise. Feeling the half-step heaven ascension realm aura on it, he chuckled. Hearing this, Jiang Yuqin was completely dumbfounded. How did the talisman he took out end up in Tianyang's hands? You're about to die, and you still want to trick me? You can die now. Tianyang chuckled and punched out. Immediately, the young master of the heavenly demon cult, peak 5th level C of Soul Realm Spirit King, Jiang Yuqin, died. Tianyang also took the opportunity to collect Jiang Yuqin's spatial pouch and obtain the azure crystal within. His ranking on the personal ranking shot up rapidly. After that, Tianyang flew back to the Dragon Necropolis and unsheathed the stick sword. Unleashing the slaughter domain, he killed with every slash. Soon, these dozen people, without exception, all died at Tianyang's hands. Tianyang, on the other hand, jumped from the 100th place to the 7th place. Personal ranking: 7th, Sword King Tianyang, and the Heavenly Demon Cult Team and the Black Dragon Clan Team. Chapter 614. The Heavenly Demon Cult was annihilated. The Dark Dragon Clan was annihilated. When these two pieces of news spread, the entire Earthly Emperor Small World was shaken. The Dark Dragon Clan was one thing. As the main force of the Earthly Emperor Small World, humans only had a basic understanding of the other clans as long as they weren't too strong. Among the Dark Dragon Clan, only the Dark Blood Clan was a little interesting. The others might not even be stronger than the other dragon clans. Otherwise, the Crimson Dragon Clan wouldn't have made it to the top 10. However, the annihilation of the Heavenly Demon Cult was no different from a huge earthquake to the humans and the other clans. The Heavenly Demon Cult was a top first-rate faction. It was an assassin faction comparable to a sacred land of martial arts. Those who came from it were all skilled in assassination and escape. Killing a member of the Heavenly Demon Cult was already difficult enough, let alone annihilating all of them. It wasn't a difficult problem anymore. It was simply impossible. However, Tianyang had done it. It was impossible. Tianyang. I thought he was dead. So, he was experiencing some sort of opportunity. In a cave, King Chi Yao had a serious expression as he looked at Tianyang, who had returned to the top 10. Back then, when the Earthly Sovereign Small World had just opened, he had already worked extremely hard. However, he was still easily surpassed by Tianyang. Although he was already in first place, he still had a feeling that something was amiss. Tianyang might not always lose to him. Charming Snake, this time, we can investigate Tianyang properly. I have a feeling that the Sword King might be stronger than the Tyrannosaurus King and the Flame Monarch. King Chi Yao said. Charming Snake's expression changed slightly when she heard this. The Tyrannosaurus King and the Flame Monarch were the top geniuses of the human race. The Tyrannosaurus King had been famous for many years. In terms of strength, he might not lose to King Chi Yao. The Flame Monarch had risen recently. His annihilation flame could burn almost everything. His cultivation was close to that of a spiritual king, and his strength couldn't be underestimated. However, Tianyang had only appeared twice in front of King Chi Yao, and he had risen to a level higher than these two. How could Charming Snake not be shocked? Yes. The Charming Snake nodded and retreated. As for King Chi Yao, he was fiddling with his scarlet red arm. His face gradually darkened as he looked at the words, Sword King Tianyang. I, King Chi Yao, will definitely become number 1 in this martial arts conference. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Tianyang still didn't know that he had been targeted by King Chi Yao, who was currently ranked first on the mortal rankings. At this moment, he was arranging for the members of the Star Swordplay sect to collect the celestial cyan crystals in the Dragon Tomb mountain range while completing the reconstruction of the barrier. Huff! Tianyang let out a long sigh. Even if he was the Array Tao Supreme from 10,000 years ago, it was extremely difficult to arrange an enchantment that surrounded the entire Dragon Tomb mountain range. If it was not for the many treasures that he obtained from the Dragon Tomb in his interspatial bag, he would not have known how long it would take to complete the boundary. Even so, Tianyang still spent 3 full days. Now, it had been nearly a month since the start of the martial arts conference. Master, this is the last batch of celestial cyan crystals in the Dragon Tomb mountain range. The rest of the celestial cyan crystals are either hidden deep in the ground or have yet to form. It's not worth it to mine them. That's why there are so many of them. Ling Yuhan handed an interspatial bag to Tianyang and smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. He did not look at the number of items in the bag and returned it to Ling Yuhan. Well done. I'll leave the celestial cyan crystals with you. After all, I have no use for them. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded, but her face darkened. For the past 3 days, Tianyang had not only been setting up the enchantment, but he had also been hunting ferocious beasts to obtain the celestial cyan crystals and handed them to them. Obviously, he was preparing for the future. Now, I've already recorded your aura in this enchantment. So, If you encounter any danger in the earthly emperor's small world, hide in the Dragon Tomb mountain range. Ordinary people will not be able to find this place, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan opened her mouth but closed it in the end. She could see that Tianyang's actions meant that he was going to leave. Although the Star Swordplay sex group was not weak, they were not strong either. The gap between them and Tianyang was so huge that it was terrifying. If they were to disregard everything and forcefully follow Tianyang, the best outcome would be that Tianyang would barely protect them like before. Then, they would become a burden to Tianyang and a burden to the team. However, as Tianyang's strength improved, Tianyang's opponents would face greater danger than before. If they were to forcefully follow him, they would most likely die. Their strength is not considered strong, Ling Yuhan said. Hearing this, Tianyang did not wait for her to finish and interrupted her. It is precisely because they are not strong that we will leave. Not only because they are a burden, but also because if we're always here, they will never have the chance to encounter danger again. The path of cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. They are protected by us and seem to be doing well, but in fact, they are flowers in a greenhouse. It is difficult for them to withstand the wind and waves. Only by letting them face it themselves and solve it themselves can they transform into true experts, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded and then handed the sky emerald crystals to Sun Xing. This was the last bit of help Tianyang gave them. Enchantment, rise. At this moment, Tianyang's face turned serious. Countless Reiki flew out and landed in various parts of the Dragon Tomb mountain range. In the next moment, the enchantment that had been abandoned for many years suddenly opened. This time, there was no external interference. At least for 1,000 years, no one would be able to enter it. The enchantment is done. We should leave now. At this moment, Yu Jinshan walked over and said slowly. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's heart trembled. As for Sun Xing, who received the sky emerald crystals, tears streamed down his face. Big brother Tianyang. The people from the Star Swordplay sect also raised their heads and looked at Tianyang and the other two. Lord Tianyang. However, Tianyang turned around and faced them with his back. He waved his hand, and his shadow stretched out under the setting sun. We are leaving. From now on, you will have to rely on your own efforts. These last sky emerald crystals and the enchantment are our final help. Then, Tianyang summoned the heavenly pagoda. It was like a pillar that reached the heavens, standing tall between heaven and earth. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Tianyang summoned the heavenly pagoda, which meant that he was really leaving. Let's meet again if fate wills it. Yu Jinshan smiled and waved his hand. He walked into the heavenly pagoda. Then, Ling Yuhan also walked in. Finally, Tianyang walked to the entrance of the heavenly pagoda. He turned around and smiled. Let's meet again if fate wills it. In the next moment, Tianyang's figure disappeared. The heavenly pagoda soared into the sky. Chapter 615. Flying in the Sky. Tianyang's group of 3 looked at their surroundings calmly. Big brother, my teammates just sent news that they found a great opportunity. However, there are many people who have their eyes on it. Do you want to go and take a look? Yu Jinshan walked to Tianyang's side and said. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. What opportunity? If it was an ordinary opportunity, he wouldn't take action. They don't know either. However, when the opportunity appeared, a scarlet sword soared into the sky and almost dyed the sky of the earthly emperor's small world red. It's just that we were in the dragon necropolis at that time, so we didn't see it. However, to be able to cause such a phenomenon, this opportunity must be extraordinary, Yu Jinshan said with a serious expression. It said that they saw a blood-red scroll, but before they could see it clearly, they went underground again and came out once a day. Now, many experts have already gone there. Even the Tyrannosaurus King is there. The Tyrannosaurus King, Hongwei, that was the strongest genius of the human clan on the surface. Before entering the earthly emperor's small world, Hongwei was already at the top of the spiritual ranking. After entering the earthly emperor's small world, he broke through to the spiritual king realm and became even stronger. If the Tyrannosaurus King was there, then it would be difficult to compete for this opportunity. The Tyrannosaurus King's fame was enough to shock countless geniuses. The Tyrannosaurus King? Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows and smiled. He's currently second on the mortal ranking, right? Yes. Yu Jinshan nodded. Hearing this, Tianyong chuckled. Then if I snatch his azure crystal, will I be able to defeat King Qi Yao? Hearing this, even Yu Jinshan, who was very confident in Tianyong, was stunned. Snatch the azure crystal from the Tyrannosaurus King? If these words were heard by others, it would definitely cause a storm. The Tyrannosaurus King was the strongest human in the Earthly Emperor's small world. In the entire Earthly Emperor's small world, only King Qi Yao and a few others could contend with him. In the end, the moment Tianyong opened his mouth, he snatched the azure crystal from the Tyrannosaurus King. In the eyes of others, Tianyong's words were extremely arrogant. However, in Yu Jinshan's eyes, it was different. This was probably the beginning of the Tyrannosaurus King's tragedy. Is there a phenomenon of scarlet sword chi soaring into the sky and dyeing the sky red? Such a natural phenomenon is not ordinary. Let's go, Tianyong said as he stretched lazily. Yu Jinshan nodded and flew out of the heavenly Yuan Tower to lead the way. Hong Wei, I didn't expect you to be here too. At this moment, a chuckle sounded in the open space. In the next moment, a man in a green robe appeared beside a man who was as strong as an iron tower. Hearing this, the burly man's face sank. He looked at the green-clothed man walking over, and fear flashed in his eyes. Bai Mo, what are you doing here? Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed drastically. White Demon, an expert in the top 70 of the spirit ranking, White Demon. They did not expect that a natural phenomenon would attract so many geniuses. The Tyrannosaurus King, White Demon, and the Sword King, Scarlet Dragon King, and others were said to be on their way. This place could be said to be a gathering of heroes. If you, the Tyrannosaurus King, can come, why can't I, White Demon, come? The green-clothed man, White Demon, smiled faintly. Hearing this, the Tyrannosaurus King's face darkened. He did not care about the chaotic Saber Demon and the Sword King, who were ranked below him in the top 100 of the spirit ranking. However, although White Demon was not as strong as him in terms of strength, but since he was here, it meant that the person behind him was probably here as well. Don't worry. Seeing through the reason for Hong Wei's ugly expression, White Demon chuckled. Whether my master wants to take action or not depends on whether the thing here is strong or not. If it's not valuable, he naturally won't take action. However, if it's valuable enough, I advise you to leave as soon as possible. White Demon chuckled. Hearing this, Hong Wei's expression turned ugly. When had he, the Tyrannosaurus King, ever been threatened like this? However, the person behind White Demon was an extremely terrifying existence in terms of strength and power. Although he was not weak, if he wanted to fight the person behind White Demon head-on, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg. That kind of existence would not make any moves in the beginning. However, at the end of the martial arts conference, it would be their stage. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have that person behind you. The current you is not my opponent, Hong Wei said coldly. Then, he flicked his sleeves and walked away. Seeing this, White Demon smiled faintly and did not care at all. He turned his gaze to the others with disdain. There was only Hong Wei in this place where the treasure appeared, and it was worth it for White Demon to talk to him. If the others died, then so be it. Why isn't senior brother Yu Jinshan here yet? On the other side, a delicate-looking girl looked at the communication token in her hand. A slender, flying sword circled around her body, indicating her identity as a disciple of the Flying Sword sect. However, even if she was a disciple of the Flying Sword sect, it was useless here. Nia Fengyun, who was not far away, was a disciple of the martial arts Holy Land, the Scarlet Flame sect. Damn senior brother Hua. Although I'm only at the peak of the 4th level of the Sea of Soul Realm, and am at the back of the line, he shouldn't have kicked me away. Nia Fengyun's face was gloomy. Just you wait. Wait until I get the opportunity here. Then I'll return to the Scarlet Flame sect and take the captain's position for myself. All right, this martial arts conference seems to have Tianyang as well. If Tianyang doesn't come, then it's fine. If he comes, then I'll definitely send him to hell. Nie Fengyun roared in his heart. At this moment, waves of blood-red sword intent suddenly erupted. Seeing this, everyone's heart shook. They stopped what they were doing and turned to the center of the open space. This was where the Crimson Scroll had appeared many times before. What's going on? Why is it so early today? It's good that it's early. If it's late and the true prodigies arrive, then we won't have share of it. That's true. Look, soaring sword chi has appeared. Everyone discussed. In the next moment, after that person's exclamation, a blood-red sword chi soared into the sky. An ancient blood-red scroll rushed out from the ground and appeared in everyone's line of sight. It's out. Kill. Seeing the blood-red scroll appear, everyone didn't care how many times they had failed before and attacked one after another. At this moment, the blood-red scroll that shouldn't have remained in place suddenly trembled and rushed in a certain direction. Seeing this, everyone was shocked and hurriedly turned to look. They saw after rushing for a while, the blood-red scroll suddenly slowed down and fell into the hands of a young man. Beside the young man, there was a beautiful girl and the eldest disciple of the Flying Sword sect, Yu Jianshun. Yu Jianshun. Why is he beside a young man? Who is this young man? No matter who he is, this guy actually took our blood-red scroll. Everyone discussed. At this moment, Tianyang noticed the blood-red scroll that suddenly appeared in his hands. What's going on? Tianyang was a little confused. At this moment, a message came from the blood-red scroll. Tianyang immediately understood what was going on, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Tianyang chuckled as he looked at the dumbfounded and murderous crowd. Chapter 616. I'm sorry, but I, Sword King Tianyang, want this scroll. Tianyang had a smile that deserved a beating as he looked at the crowd before him, and said with a slight smile. Hearing this, the crowd that had maintained their apprehension and calmness immediately exploded. You're courting death. Isn't he just a sword king? He actually dares to speak like this. This is a place where the Tyrannosaurus King and White Demon exist. A mere sword king Tianyang dares to provoke like this. He's simply courting death. Everyone roared. But strangely, although they were roaring, in reality, not many people were willing to stand out. After all, the young man before them was a powerhouse who defeated Scarlet Demon King a few minutes after the start of the battle, then annihilated Heavenly Een Mountain and the Dark Dragon clan, and even took Yu Jianshun as a subordinate. Everyone was still rather doubtful about the last one, but after seeing it, they were no longer doubtful. A person who could do such a valiant act was absolutely ruthless. They rashly rushed up courting death. Therefore, this strange situation of shouting madly appeared, but in reality, not a single person dared to move. A bunch of cowards. Isn't it just a sword, King Tianyang? What the hell are you afraid of? And at this moment, a fourth-level sea of Soul Realm suddenly stood out and coldly looked at Tianyang. Tianyang, worldly oddities are obtained by the fated. Snatching the scroll like this will cause public indignation. Why don't you return it to everyone? Hearing this, Tianyang's brows raised. Public indignation? It should be you who's indignant. All right, cut the crap. Why don't we fight? Subsequently, Tianyang held the blood-colored scroll in his left hand and clenched his right hand into a fist. He faintly smiled at the fourth-level sea of Soul Realm. I'll let you use one hand. Bastard. No matter how good the fourth-level sea of Soul Realm self-restraint was, he couldn't help but explode with rage at this moment. The true essence within his body surged, and in the next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared. A huge palm appeared before Tianyang. High-grade Earth Tier, martial skill, Arhut Sky, overturning palm. Bang! The huge palm transformed into a palm print, flickering with rays of golden light. In the next moment, space shattered as it charged towards Tianyang. That's the full power attack of the 118th on the spirit ranking. Although Tianyang is strong, it's impossible for him to stop him with just one hand. This Scarlet Scroll is still ours. Seeing this mighty golden palm print, Everyone was confident and said confidently. This person was a Buddhist disciple of the Western region. Although he wasn't bald, he still had a vigorous Buddhist true yuan. This palm strike was a profound martial skill of the Western region's Buddhist sects. Its might was comparable to a peerless earth-tier martial skill. This person was confident that Tianyong wouldn't be able to block this move of his. Those bald donkeys' playthings. At this moment, Tianyong recognized the origin of this Arhut's heaven-flipping palm and raised his eyebrows. Using bald donkey's thing to deal with this thing. Are you courting death? After that, Tianyong didn't even bother to use his true essence. He didn't even wave his fist and directly threw out the blood-red scroll. What? The fourth level C of Soul Realm's face changed greatly. Why didn't this Tianyong follow the rules? If he were to shatter that blood-red scroll, then the one who would become the target of public indignation would be him. Damn it. Hurry up and take it back. The fourth level C of Soul Realm had just issued this thought. But at this moment, sensing the appearance of the blood-red scroll, the golden palm print suddenly went out of control and instantly expanded sharply. The golden Buddhist light was dazzling, covering the blood-red scroll within. This is Buddhist light salvation. This scroll is surrounded by Buddhist light. Doesn't that mean that this scroll is mine? The fourth level C of Soul Realm was dumbfounded. However, before he could be stunned for long, the blood-red scroll surrounded by Buddhist light suddenly erupted with a burst of blood-red light. Kill! 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 A terrifying roar came from the blood-red scroll. In the next moment, the entire blood-red scroll suddenly transformed into an extremely terrifying, enormous sword. Without needing anyone to control it, it charged towards the golden palm print. The sin of killing is too heavy. Buddhist law subdue. At this moment, a majestic voice suddenly came from the golden palm print. That golden palm instantly charged out, charging towards the blood-red sword. Boom! The extremely terrifying blood-red sword and the golden palm fiercely collided. Killing chi and Buddhist light intertwined, instantly exploding the entire sky. Seeing this, the fourth level C of Soul Realm's face changed greatly. Tianyong's face also sank slightly. Looking at the situation, it seemed that the blood-red scroll couldn't hold on any longer. Kill! 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 The blood-red sword once again erupted with a roar, and at this moment, the golden palm print also erupted with a burst of resplendent Buddhist light. Arhut overturns the sky. The fourth level C of Soul Realm roared, faintly understanding in his heart. If he controlled the golden palm print to subdue this blood-red scroll, then this blood-red scroll would be his. Don't be fooled by his dignified words before, as if he was standing on the moral high ground. If he obtained this blood-red scroll, how could he hand it over? A greedy expression flashed through the fourth level C of Soul Realm's eyes, and the blood-red sword transformed from the scroll also began to tremble. Relying on the power of a scroll alone, it was simply impossible to block the attack of a fourth level C of Soul Realm. TSK, I still have to make a move. Tianyong curled his lips and soared into the sky, his palms suddenly grasping the blood-red sword. Boom! A berserk aura erupted from Tianyong's body. In the next moment, Tianyong held the sword in his hand and faintly smiled. Looking at the Arhut overturns the sky, which was emitting a majestic Buddhist light in the sky. A mere bald donkey wants to subdue this sword. Tianyong faintly smiled. Hearing this, the fourth level C of Soul Realm immediately flew into a rage. You still dare to speak such arrogant words in the face of boundless Buddhist law. Kid, you're courting death. The one courting death is you. Sanguinati's sky-severing sword arts isn't for a weakling like you to provoke. Tianyong coldly smiled. In the next moment, grasping the blood-red sword in his hand, a string of information flashed through his mind. This information was shockingly the sword move recorded in the blood-red scroll, slowly overlapping with the sword move in the depths of Tianyong's memories. 10,000 years ago, the emperor of a generation who attained the Tao through killing, Sanguinati, created a heaven-rank martial skill. Sky-severing sword arts. Bang! Slaughter domain, open. Tianyang's expression slightly concentrated, and the blood-red sword in his hand suddenly flickered with a burst of blood-red light, as if the sword's spirit within was cheering in joy. Sanguinati attained the Tao through killing, and Tianyang's slaughter domain naturally coincided with the blood-red sword's intent. I, your father, haven't had much contact with Sanguinati. However, we can still be considered to have a bit of friendship. You guy, just take it as a sacrifice for the sky-severing sword arts to reappear in the world. Tianyang faintly smiled. Seeing this, the fourth-level sea of Soul Realm's expression changed greatly, feeling a trace of a bad premonition. Arhut overturns the sky palm. Subdue this villain. The golden palm erupted with a boundless radiance, wanting to suppress Tianyang. Sky-severing sword arts, first strike. Tianyang furiously roared, and in the next moment, an enormous kill character suddenly condensed. In the next moment, a sword slashed out, and the kill character shot out explosively, directly shattering the Arhut overturns the sky palm, and conveniently. Chapter 617. Killing intent shot out in all directions, and the incomparably terrifying kill word brazenly pierced through the heavens. Even if that fourth-level sea of Soul Realm expert used heaven-defying methods and erupted with boundless Buddhist light, he still couldn't escape the fate of being slain by Tianyang's sword. Sky-severing sword arts was a heaven-tier martial skill created by Sanguinati. Although it was only a low-grade heaven-tier martial skill, in terms of offensive power, it wasn't inferior to a mid-grade heaven-tier martial skill. Sky-severing sword arts was also known as 7 killing sword arts. The entire sword arts only had 7 moves. In other words, 7 kill words. The first killing move was the one used before. A single kill word slashed out, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. It was incomparably terrifying, and even the Western region's Buddhist methods were easily crushed. As for the second killing move, it was still a kill word. However, it was 2 kill words superimposed, erupting with power that was countless times stronger than the first killing move. Third killing move, fourth killing move, fifth killing move, and so on. Until the 7th killing move, multiple kill words superimposed together, erupting with power that could practically destroy the heavens and earth. Of course, even Sanguinati, who created this sky-severing sword arts, hadn't used the 7th killing move even once. Tianyang also didn't understand the terrifying power of the 7th killing move. However, according to this simple superimposing method, Tianyang's current 4th-level sea of Soul Realm cultivation base, even with the assistance of the boundless spiritual ocean, could at most use the 3rd killing move. After stepping into the Spirit King realm, he could at most use the 5th killing move. The 6th killing move was the connecting heaven tier, and the 7th killing move. After becoming an emperor, there was still a possibility. Of course, in the present situation, even if it was only the first 3 killing moves, Tianyang was enough to easily intimidate everyone present. Western region's Buddhist people, aren't they all proficient in something like Golden Bell Cover, Iron Mantle, Akalanatha Bell, Diamond Body, and so on? Why are they so weak? Looking at the 4th-level sea of Soul Realm expert who no longer had any trace of life left in the world, Tianyang lightly laughed. Hearing this, the crowd immediately went into an uproar. Western region's Buddhist sect, although not exalted in everyone's hearts, was still extremely important. Tianyang's provocation of Western region's Buddhist sect naturally caused the dissatisfaction of countless people. But, so what if he was dissatisfied? Before, Tianyang had killed that 4th-level sea of Soul's Realm warrior with just 1 word. Then what about 2 or 3? Wouldn't it be able to instantly kill the Tyrannosaurus King and the White Devil? What a bunch of cowards! Seeing no reaction from the crowd, Tianyang curled his lips and mocked again. Hearing this, someone finally couldn't take it anymore. He suddenly took a step forward and looked at the Tianyang in the sky with burning anger. Tianyang, I admit that you are very strong, but a warrior prefers death to humiliation. How dare you provoke my Western region Buddhist sect in front of so many people? Do you dare to come down and fight?" A bald man said angrily. His body faintly emitted the aura of a cultivator at the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. This was actually a spirit king. Seeing this baldy, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. "It's not that I can't fight you, but what if you gang up on me? I guarantee on the reputation of the Western region Buddhist sect that I will never gang up on you. Furthermore, if you lose to me, you'll have to hand over the blood-red scroll. This kind of vicious thing can only be dealt with by my Western region Buddhist sect." The baldy wore a kasaya and said sanctimoniously. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled. "In the end, you still want to snatch things. Snatching things is no problem. The treasures in the world belong to those with strength. You've said so much nonsense, but you still want to snatch things? I say, if you want to snatch things, you should do it earlier. All day long, you put on a hat and put on a sanctimonious appearance. What I can't stand the most is the hypocritical appearance of you bald donkeys." Tianyang laughed loudly. Hearing this, the baldy's face suddenly sank. A furious killing intent burst out from his eyes. "Oomph. Benefactor has already entered the Devil Dao. Then let me, Guangming, make you realize your mistake." Guangming snorted coldly. In the next moment, a strong wave of true origin exploded. Earth upper-class martial technique, unshaken body of the Wisdom King. Guangming roared loudly. A huge Buddha statue appeared on his body. In the next moment, Guangming's body seemed to be covered by golden light and became extremely dazzling. Then, Guangming raised his head and looked at Tianyang, who was holding the blood-colored sword in his hand. Buddha's angry lion roar. Roar. A terrifying roar came out from Guangming's mouth. The sound waves rolled like thunder from the 9 heavens. Just this roar alone was enough to make people's hearts tremble. It was unforgettable. As for the weaker ones, their expressions changed drastically. They took a few steps back, and their faces were much paler. Just the aftermath of the roar was enough to make them vomit blood. The Buddhist sect's ultimate move was indeed worthy of its reputation. Just the aftermath was already so powerful. As Tianyang was the one who was hit by the roar, how powerful would the attack be? This move of mine is combined with his soul attack. Tianyang is strong, but his soul power is not necessarily strong. Guangming laughed coldly in his heart. When the time comes, this blood-colored scroll will be mine. When I use the 1,000 miles godly travel talisman, even the Tyrannosaurus King will not be able to find me. At this moment, the rolling sound waves had already entered Tianyang's mind. Waves of soul attacks were launched, and the rolling sound waves shook the earth. If it had been another person, their skull would have cracked and their soul would have been shattered. However, Tianyang's expression did not change. His body was still standing proudly. Buddha's angry lion roar. Tianyang raised an eyebrow and laughed coldly. "You're still too inexperienced to play this move in front of your grandfather." Nether Spirit's wrath. Tianyang snorted coldly. A similar roar came out from Tianyang's mouth. Roar. Compared to the lion's roar of Buddha's wrath, which was full of righteousness, Tianyang's Nether Spirit's wrath was the same as the Nether Spirit's wrath. When the first sound wave roar came out, it shattered the lion's roar that had invaded Tianyang's mind. The second sound wave dissipated it directly. The third and fourth sound waves came out from a few thousand meters away and went straight for Guangming. What? Seeing this, Guangming's expression changed drastically. Arhat's Vajra protection. A majestic Dharma power appeared on Guangming's body and tried to block the Nether Spirit's wrath. However, how could Tianyang's Nether Spirit's wrath be blocked by a mere protective martial art? Boom! The Nether Spirit's wrath shook and shattered the immovable body of the King Ming and the Arhat's Vajra protection. Poof! Guangming spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. His blood stained his kasaya red, and his bones were broken. With just one blow, Guangming was severely injured. However, Tianyang had no intention of letting him go. His eyes were cold as he activated his soul power and unleashed the Nether Spirit's wrath again. I have the Western Region Buddhist sect behind me. How dare you? Before Guangming could finish his words, his soul was shattered by the Nether Spirit's wrath. Chapter 6:18. In a short few minutes, 2 experts at the 4th level of the Sea of Soul Realm and above died. If these 2 experts were only ordinary experts, then so be it. Fighting over a treasure like the sky-severing sword art, it was naturally impossible for them to be unharmed. However, the crux of the matter was that these 2 experts were from the Western region's Buddhist sects. The Western region's Buddhist sects practically covered the sky with one hand in the Western region of the Central region, and were even stronger than the Eastern region's Sun-Moon sect. This was because the Western region's Buddhist sects were the only holy land of martial Tao in the Western region. Among them, there were Heaven Ascension realm experts overseeing. The entire Western region's Buddhist sects practically ruled the entire Western region's Buddhist sections. Tianyang had absolutely no background behind him, and even had the Star Swordplay sect to worry about, yet he still dared to domineeringly kill the Western region's Buddhist sections. This caused everyone to be a loss for words. The remaining bald donkeys, are you going to leave by yourselves? Or should I kill all of you? Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, the hearts of the Buddhist sect's disciples hidden in the crowd all trembled, and they hurriedly left. In their eyes, Tianyang was simply a killing god, a terrifying killing god from the hell path. That 4th level Sea of Soul Realm expert from before was one thing, but Guangming, 5th level Sea of Soul Realm expert, one of the only Spirit King experts dispatched by the Western region's Buddhist sects this time, had actually died at Tianyang's hands. How could the Western region's Buddhist sects not be shocked, angry, or fearful? Seeing those people flee in panic, Tianyang's expression didn't change much. These bald donkeys were indeed an eyesore to him. However, he wasn't a fool. Now that he'd killed 2, he could still force the Western region's Buddhist sects to have no choice but to lower their heads. If he killed a few more out of anger, then the Western region's Buddhist sects would have an excuse to start a war. Although Tianyang himself wasn't worried, the others had to be afraid, especially the Star Swordplay sect behind Tianyang. Although Tianyang initially only wanted to support the Star Swordplay sect and let it develop steadily. However, as time passed, the Star Swordplay sect had been branded with Tianyang's mark. In other words, Tianyang's every move affected the Star Swordplay sect. Then, he wouldn't be able to kill wantonly. Of course, if he was provoked, he would kill regardless of the consequences. So, the rest of the people still have objections? Tianyang stood in the air and said to the people below him. From the beginning to the end, he didn't lower himself in the slightest. He maintained a condescending attitude as he looked at these people. Only by suppressing these people would it be possible to truly obtain the heaven-severing sword art. The heaven-cleaving sword technique in his memory was not complete. After all, the heaven-cleaving sword technique was an extremely powerful sword technique. Since he had obtained it, Tianyang naturally had no reason to return it. Ownerless items should be owned by those with strength. That's right. Although you are powerful, you are only at the level of the top 70 of the spirit roll. You want to snatch the Crimson Scroll from the Tyrannosaurus King and White Devil? How is that possible? A person mocked without holding back. Hearing this, the Tyrannosaurus King Hong Wei nodded his head. Looking at Tianyang in the sky, his expression gradually became unfriendly. Tianyang, I admit that you are very strong. However, I, Hong Wei, am determined to obtain this Crimson Scroll. Give me some face. In the future, I will definitely repay you. Hong Wei said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled slightly. His fingers moved rhythmically, and the crimson sword suddenly dissipated. Seeing this, Hong Wei was delighted. In his opinion, Tianyang had given in. After all, he was currently ranked second on the mortal roll, the Tyrannosaurus King Hong Wei. I'm sorry. At this moment, Tianyang's chuckle was heard. Your face is not worth me buying, Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Yu Jinshin was stunned. That was the Tyrannosaurus King Hong Wei. It wasn't just the Tyrannosaurus King Hong Wei whose strength was as violent as a dragon's. He could understand that Tianyong did not intend to hand it over. However, this was simply provoking Hong Wei. As expected, hearing this, Hong Wei's face became extremely gloomy. Good, good, good. This is the first time someone has dared to snatch my treasure in front of so many people and even dare to provoke me. Hong Wei said the word good 3 times in a row. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. His face was filled with rage. In the next moment, a pair of boxing gloves appeared on his fists. Following this, his true yuan exploded and Hong Wei soared to the sky. Since you don't intend to hand it over, I can only snatch it myself. Half-step martial spirit, Tyrannosaurus King. Earth high-grade martial skill, Tyrannosaurus King. Hong Wei roared angrily. In the next moment, the power of his martial spirit suddenly appeared on his body. With an incomparably powerful force, it charged towards Tianyong. Seeing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows. This was a half-ranked martial spirit. No wonder Hong Wei was able to achieve such a powerful result. This half-ranked martial spirit played a huge role. If I devour this martial spirit, the Sky Cloud Sword will probably be able to enter the heaven rank. However, it is not easy to devour it now. Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. At this moment, the Iron Fist had already arrived in front of Tianyong. The Tyrannosaurus King is not considered a dragon. However, in terms of physical strength, it is not weaker than an ordinary dragon. Hong Wei, who has a half-ranked martial spirit, has inherited this very well. His physical strength is almost comparable to a real dragon. Baimo looked at the 2 people in the sky and sneered coldly. In his opinion, the outcome of this battle had been decided from the beginning. However, that lord still has not replied. I don't know if he wants it or not, Baimo muttered to himself. At this moment, the Tyrannosaurus King hit Tianyong hard. Boom! The 2 people's fists collided fiercely. Ripples of energy spread out and waves of chi exploded, causing everyone to retreat a few steps. Seeing this, Hong Wei raised his head in surprise and looked at Tianyong. I didn't expect your physical strength to be so powerful. Tianyong's punch did not use any true origin martial skill. It was just a simple punch that blocked Hong Wei's Tyrannosaurus King. Even Hong Wei felt that he was no match for the strength of his physical body. However, in a real battle, physical strength is not the only thing that counts. Hong Wei grinned maliciously. The true origin martial spirit's power erupted from his body. Earth rank martial skill, Tyrannosaurus King. Roar. The Tyrannosaurus King roared, Tyrannosaurus King. This punch was a fusion of martial skill and martial spirit. It carried an incomparably powerful force that shattered layers of space and broke through countless obstacles, arriving in front of Tianyong. Under this fist, a peak 6th level C of Soul Realm expert had once perished. At this moment, Tianyong smiled faintly. Tyrannosaurus King? His strength is not bad. However, in front of Divine Dragon, he can only bow his head. Chapter 619. Dragon King's Divine Fist. Tianyong roared. In the next moment, the Divine Dragon's dragon power exploded and the entire space began to tremble. With the Divine Dragon's body, his physical strength alone was enough to shake the space. Moreover, Tianyong also had his endless spiritual ocean. Roar! A deafening dragon roar resounded and a Dragon King's shadow appeared. In the next moment, the Divine Dragon's dragon power condensed into countless giant dragons. Under the command of the Dragon King's shadow, they charged towards the tyrannical dragon, Dragon King's Divine Fist. The tyrannical Dragon King was, after all, a genius of the human race. Naturally, he knew about the famous Dragon King's Divine Fist from the EC Dragon Palace. A trace of shock appeared on his face. This guy actually knows a heaven-class martial skill. Moreover, it's a heaven-class martial skill from the Dragon Tribe. Isn't Tianyong a genius from a small faction? How is he related to the Dragon Tribe? Hong Wei was puzzled, but he did not dare to relax. Surging true origin force surged out and collided with the Dragon King's divine fist. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled, and the valley collapsed. Even the towering mountains thousands of meters away were shattered by the shockwaves from their battle. Tianyong, on the other hand, maintained his posture and collided with Hong Wei's divine fist. Tianyong smiled faintly. In the next moment, Hong Wei let out a muffled groan and took several steps back. The shock that had appeared because of the Dragon King's divine fist had now completely enveloped his face. He clearly felt that if Tianyong had not shown mercy, his internal organs would have been crushed by the terrifying dragon power. In other words, Tianyong had the chance to kill Hong Wei at that moment. How is this possible? Hong Wei's face was filled with bitterness. Below him, Bai Mo muttered the same words to himself. Revealing a trace of disbelief, Bai Mo stared fixedly at Tianyong and Tianyong. Tyrannical dragon, tyrannical earth. In addition to Hong Wei's martial spirit's power, Hong Wei's move was something that even he might not be able to withstand. However, looking at the situation above, it was obvious that Hong Wei was at a disadvantage. How is this possible? Your Excellency's strength is indeed extraordinary. Although I have yet to use my final attack, I reckon that it won't be able to do anything to you. Hong Wei took a few steps back and said with a face full of admiration. His strongest points were his physical strength and his half-step martial soul. But now, his physical strength had been completely crushed by Tianyong, and his half-tier martial soul was completely useless. As for his fist art, it was completely crushed by Tianyong, who was known as the Sword King. Hong Wei even suspected that Tianyong called himself the Sword King to trick people. Tianyong's fists were even stronger than his. This is my azure crystal. Please keep it well, Hong Wei said. Then he took out his azure crystal and threw it to Tianyong. Then he flew away. After receiving the bag of sky-green crystals, Tianyong was stunned. How could Hong Wei leave so easily? With the pride of a genius like him, shouldn't he fight to the death? What Hong Wei said made sense, but Tianyong neglected one point. When ants wrestle with ants, if one side loses, they might want to get back at the other. However, what about when a dragon wrestles with an ant? Even if the ant dies, wouldn't think of taking revenge on the dragon. However, since he had achieved his goal, Tianyong couldn't be bothered to dwell on it. He kept the azure crystal into the interspatial bag. On the individual ranking, Tianyong's name shot up like a rocket. In the end, he surpassed King Chi Yao and became the new number one. As for Hong Wei, his name couldn't be seen anymore. In other words, the interspatial bag contained all of Hong Wei's azure crystal. This person, looking at Hong Wei, who had disappeared into the horizon, Tianyong shook his head. This person was really honest. Then, who else has any objections? Tianyong smiled faintly and looked at the few remaining people. At this moment, other than Bai Mo, who had a look of unwillingness on his face, there were only those who were dumbfounded from watching the battle. When they heard Tianyong's question, it was as if they had just woken up from a dream. They hurriedly shook their heads and ran away even faster than Hong Wei. The moment he arrived, he killed someone from the Western Region Buddhist sect. Then, one of the strongest disciples sent by the Western Region Buddhist sect, Guangming, was killed by Tianyong without a frown. After that, the T-Rex King lost to Tianyong. If they had any objections, then they had problems with their intelligence. Then, in the huge empty space, only Tianyong, Guangming, and White Demon were left. There's still one more. Tianyong raised an eyebrow. He was just casually saying that. Tianyong couldn't be bothered and planned to leave immediately. However, White Demon stayed here alone. Wasn't he afraid that Tianyong Ming would kill him? You're called White Demon, right? You're a little weaker than Hong Wei. Why? Do you want to snatch my blood-colored scroll? Tianyong said with a faint smile. Hearing this, White Fiend felt a wave of humiliation. He was also in the top 100 of the spirit roll. His ranking on the spirit roll was much higher than Tianyong's. However, in Tianyong's mouth, he had become a passerby whose name he couldn't remember. How could he not be angry? Unfortunately, the difference in strength was there. White Demon could only grit his teeth and swallow his anger, not daring to say a word. No. Yes, White Demon said hoarsely. Previously, the Lord behind him had sent him a message, telling him to delay Tianyang. When the time came, he would personally snatch it. Therefore, even if White Demon died, he had to delay Tianyang. Otherwise, the person behind him would definitely make him and his family suffer a fate worse than death. If not, why are you still here? Tianyang raised his eyebrows and revealed a look of interest. In the next moment, Tianyang's expression changed. TSK, the attraction of this blood-colored scroll is really great. I thought that attracting the Tyrannosaurus King was already the limit. I didn't expect that it would attract the guy who should be the last to come out. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, White Demon's expression changed drastically. These words were clearly referring to the person behind him. However, White Demon had only manipulated the communication token previously. No matter how amazing Tianyang's eyesight was, it was impossible for him to see it. Not bad. Not bad. At this moment, an arrogant laughter came from afar. Yu Jianshan turned his head, and his expression changed drastically. In the distance, a man in red heavy armor stepped on the void as if he was stepping on the ground. He walked toward them step by step. The emblem on his left chest was extremely dazzling under the light of the sun. You were actually able to sense my presence. It seems that a small sect might not necessarily be unable to produce geniuses. The heavily armored man chuckled, and Tianyang's expression became slightly solemn. This was because the emblem on the heavily armored man's chest was especially dazzling. Chapter 620. The Holy Land of Martial Dao, Nine Heavens Palace. Tianyang knew of 3 holy lands of martial Dao in the central region. The ruler of Earthly's sovereign city, the Scarlet Flame sect, the Western region's Buddhist sect, and the Nine Heavens Palace. In terms of strength, Nine Heavens Palace was stronger than the Scarlet Flame sect and the Western region's Buddhist sect. It was just that it wasn't well known. However, that didn't mean that Nine Heavens Palace was weak. Lord, you're finally here. At this moment, Bai Mo finally broke free from Tianyang's terrifying pressure. He looked at the heavily armored man and said excitedly. Hearing this, the heavily armored man snorted coldly. Humph. To think that I have to come personally. Trash. Hearing this, Bai Mo's smile froze for a moment. However, he quickly reacted and said respectfully, Then I won't disturb you any longer. At least you have some eyesight. The heavily armored man sneered. Then he looked at Tianyang and the person beside Tianyang. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Ling Yuhan's stunning beauty was extremely rare even in the Nine Heavens Palace. However, there was one among the people who had entered the earthly Emperor Small World. However, that person was the daughter of the palace master. He couldn't afford to offend her. As for the others, they couldn't even enter his eyes. Now that he saw Ling Yuhan, he was naturally greatly shocked. Then, he looked at Tianyang with disdain. Hand over the blood-colored scroll, then hand over the young girl beside you, and I, Tang Ba, will spare your life. Hearing this, not only was Ling Yuhan angry, even Yu Jianshan's face was filled with rage. This guy was too arrogant. He had worked so hard to get the Scarlet Scroll, but he wanted to take it away with a single sentence. And Ling Yuhan was Tianyang's reverse scale. It could be said that this Nine Heavens Palace disciple had thoroughly angered the 3 of them. What? You're still not going to hand it over? Tang Ba looked at the indifferent 3 people, and the arrogant smile on his face gradually disappeared. How dare you go against me, Tang Ba? Do you know what you're doing? Tang Ba coldly snorted. Hearing this, Yu Jianshan could no longer hold back. Isn't he just a disciple of a martial Dao Holy Land? What are you so arrogant for? Yu Jianshan roared. In the next moment, he controlled his flying sword and used the sword-controlling technique to attack Tang Ba. You still want to resist? Tang Ba coldly smiled as he looked at the incoming Yu Jianshan. The Imperial Sword Sect's Imperial Sword Technique? Humph. Petty tricks. In the next moment, Tang Ba suddenly took a step forward, and a large saber that was 3 meters long and wide appeared in his hand. On the broadsword, flames burned. In the next moment, Tang Ba's face turned serious and he roared, Earth rank upper grade martial skill, blazing sun explosion. The saber slashed out with an incomparably terrifying might. In the next moment, it struck Yu Jianshen's flying sword. Pooh! Yu Jianshen spat out a mouthful of blood. He was just about to control his flying sword to defend, but even the sword-controlling technique's defense was as weak as paper in front of the saber. In the next moment, Yu Jianshen's chest was struck by the saber, leaving behind a foot-long wound that was so deep that his bones could be seen. Blood flowed out like a fountain. In one strike, Yu Jianshen was heavily injured. Seeing that Yu Jianshen was heavily injured, Tianyang's face changed slightly. He hurriedly caught Yu Jianshen and pressed his index and middle fingers together a few times on Yu Jianshen's wound. Yu Jianshen's wound immediately stopped bleeding, but the flames on the saber were still burning. 5th grade spiritual fire, the 9 heavens flame seed flame. No wonder this move is so powerful. Tianyang's face sank. Looking at the burning flames, he stretched out his hand, and the annihilation heavenly flame brushed past it. The 9 heavens flame's seed flame was swallowed by the annihilation heavenly flame. Afterwards, Tianyang stuffed a healing pill into Yu Jianshen's mouth, stabilizing his injury. However, when he finished dealing with everything and stood up, his face was extremely gloomy. Peak of the 6th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Is this what you're relying on? Tianyang looked at Tang Ba, his eyes emotionless as he said indifferently. Seeing that emotionless gaze, Tang Ba's heart trembled. Then, he looked at Yu Jianshen, who was sent into the Heaven Yuan Tower by Tianyang, and sneered. Peak of the 6th level of Sea of Soul Realm isn't strong, but it's more than enough to kill a 4th level Sea of Soul Realm like you. Now, the conditions are still the same. Hand over the blood-colored scroll and the girl, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, all of you will die. Tang Ba said arrogantly, the insignia of the 9 heavens palace shining on his chest. Hearing this, Tianyang's face turned completely gloomy. A cold light flashed, and the void sword embryo appeared in his hand. Since you insist on courting death, Tianyang's tone was cold as he circulated the divine desolate sky spirit art. An enormous amount of true yuan gushed out from the boundless spirit sea, and the 108 divine dragon patterns on the true dragon core were released. Tianyang's condition instantly rose to the peak. Seeing Tianyang's murderous aura, Tang Ba didn't know why, but his mind trembled and he took a step back. Then, he felt that he was actually forced back by a youth who wasn't even 20 years old, and his face burned with anger. Courting death. It's you. Tang Ba roared, and in the next moment, he waved a large blade in his hand and ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. High-grade Earth Tier martial skill, blazing sun explosion. On the large blade, the aura of a middle-grade spirit artifact spread out, and the 9 heavens flame ignited once again. Die for me, Tang Ba roared, and Tianyang's expression turned cold. He planned to wave his sword to meet the attack, but at this moment, a roar suddenly came from the sky. Tang Ba, stop right there. The sound waves rolled like thunder, and the aura of the 7th level of the Sea of Soul Realm was undoubtedly revealed. In the next moment, a Dragon Force dragon appeared between Tianyang and Tang Ba, forcing Tang Ba to retreat. His large blade was interrupted before he could attack, and Tang Ba's mood instantly became gloomy to the extreme. He turned his head to look. Who dares to stop me, Tang Ba? East Sea Dragon Palace, Long Taiji. The newcomer said coldly. Hearing this, Tang Ba was just about to ridicule, but before he could say anything, his eyes widened. East Sea Dragon Palace, Long Taiji. Wasn't that the strongest genius of this generation of the East Sea Dragon Palace, the son of the Dragon Palace's palace master, who had already reached the 7th level of the Sea of Soul Realm, and was known as the next Dragon Emperor? How could such an existence appear here? At this moment, a figure flashed past, and the figure of a handsome young man appeared between the two. A head of clean golden hair hung down to his shoulders, and he wore a strange but pleasing to the eye robe. On his handsome face, there was a faint burning anger, At this moment, Long Taiji was obviously furious to the extreme. So it's the Dragon Crown Prince of the East Sea Dragon Palace. This matter is a personal grudge between me and this kid. I hope the East Sea Dragon Palace won't interfere. Otherwise, my nine heavens scram. Long Taiji roared and waved his palm, sending Tang Ba flying. You want to use the Nine Heavens Palace to suppress me? You really think my East Sea Dragon Palace is afraid of you?